Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. What's up, DB?
Hi.
I actually have a hot take already.
Oh, geez, we just started.
I know. I gotta get him out.
Your hot take is it have anything to do with current?
It has to do with something Dylan Raiola said in that clip.
Oh gosh, we're on the Dylan train. All aboard the hot takes. I will go with you want his barber.
To be honest, I'll keep it 100 with you guys.
I'm gonna keep it 100 with you guys.
My hot take is
he said 100 and not 100.
I think I would like the defense to just hand us touchdowns.
Yeah.
He said that's not fun. I think that is fun.
Yeah.
The defense should just let us take our shots.
That's your flaming hot take?
Yeah, I would disagree with Dylan Raiola already. I do want him to just hand us touchdowns.
That's a story I keep in-house.
Yeah. You can always
let's take it to the house. Let's go to the house.
Don't always spill the tea. I still want to know where that came from. But
spill the tea?
Yeah.
I'm guessing somebody knocked something over and oh, shoot.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, different kind of tea.
If I hit you with this book already, would that be?
Buckle up. It's going to be a fun ride.
He did say that.
He did.
Should he have just dropped the mic?
Yeah, I'm out. Thanks. I'm out. Peace.
Boop. No.
No? You don't think so?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
I don't either.
I'm still trying to recover from accidentally swallowing soap this morning. So if I accidentally keel over, it's on me.
What kind of soap?
1, 2, 3. It's on me. Squirt, Irish Spring with aloe vera.
Was it like the body wash, or are we talking like a shampoo?
Yes. So
I don't know if Irish Spring makes shampoo or not.
I'm dreading to even tell you this, but I'm going to get this out of the way and move on. I'm gonna leave this right here.
All right.
I like to use bar soap.
Okay.
After I use liquid soap, because bar soap gives me at least the illusion that I am all the way clean. So
it's not just about soaping yourself twice. Like the bar soap actually makes you feel cleaner.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I don't use bar soap, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, whatever. Shame on you.
Okay. Well,
So I went back for round 3 because Zoe likes bubbles in her bath.
Okay.
So I run her bath water as soon as I get out of the shower.
Okay.
So I'm like, fudge, this is so stupid, but it's vintage DB. I don't want any drops after you squirt. Because the worst thing is when you come home or whatever and you see drops because your squirt bottle had a little extra oomph in it.
Okay.
So I was like, let me just make sure it's all out. So I put it on the rag. I was like, I might as well hit the face one more time. But I was a little loosey-goosey because I was singing.
Yeah.
And it just...
You were singing while you were washing your face?
I was like, it's bubble CD. And it got in there. So that's not, it's whatever.
Yeah. You should, when you got the wash rag on your face, you should probably keep the mouth closed.
You know what?
Just in general, as a life lesson.
I was having a moment. It was just a random 2 seconds of it got away from me. And sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it happens with the best of us.
I was
not that specifically, but other stuff.
So it just happens to me in the moment sometimes. I was messing around with Coach Sikora yesterday at practice, and he was like, we had film the day before. Mm-hmm. And he was like, gosh, I was kind of watching you in the auditorium. And he did this pretend Stevie Wonder thing. I was just kind of looking around, and he's like, I was just kind of watching you not be able to sit still. And he did a little storytelling of what I could have possibly been looking at. He's like, oh, I wonder if there's air coming out of those filters up there. And I wonder where those pipes run. And and I was like, fudge, is that
You're
what happened?
That's pretty close.
No.
I'm in her monologue.
No, that's not what I said. I was like, fudge.
You're like, fudge. Where does that air filter go?
I wonder if my deficit disorder, because I'm really paying attention.
Yeah.
Other things may catch me.
Yeah.
So when Coach Queen or Coach whomever was talking, I probably was just I'm listening. I just probably wonder It's a pretty sweet filter system.
So you're like, man, where do those pipes go? Fudge.
No, you let's go, baby. So we're just gonna do the fudge thing now, huh? That's cute.
It's a little funny.
That's cute. You and
No,
that,
that is
you,
like
you and that ding dong solder.
that is like an ADHD thing though, where it's like you have to, in order to actually focus on something, you kind of have to distract yourself a little bit.
Yeah, sometimes you'll be saying something and I'll look at Shane just because I don't want to. But that mostly comes from I just don't want to be staring you in your cake hole, right? It's just like, is this awkward? I feel like it's just yeah, it's like this is kind of weird. But then I go back to my hey, make eye contact. Who are you looking at?
Yeah.
I'm looking at you. You better look at me. Then he would like move my chin. I'm like, bro, I'm old enough to know where to put my head.
Don't do that.
Yeah, except I'm not saying don't do that. I'll let you feel this little spot on my sternum that still doesn't sit quite right. That's the memory of old pops.
If
Wasn't enough room in the hallway at home. Scoot over. My bad. But anyway, like that, like I'm cool with that hot take. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but I mean that's part of it. You know, somebody it was on a message board, and I can't remember who. I should shout him or her out. But a couple months ago, probably a month ago, he posted a stat of balls on the ground that opponents have fumbled that Nebraska does not recover. And I always talk about it, right? Like I'm like, hey, and the ball's on the ground, get on it. Or when you get your hands on a ball, catch it.
Yeah.
But since I think it was since 18, X amount of balls had been on the ground and Nebraska had recovered like 20% of them. And I was like, man, that's a sneaky good stat. I talk about that all the time. I just don't.
Because I imagine the average is pretty close to 50-50.
But it's terrible. So, for instance, how about Maryland last year? Okay. And that goddamn scrum that had all those red jerseys and somehow Maryland comes up with the football.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, how do you not recover that? Or
we saw it on Saturday with Georgia Tech and Florida State where Haynes King
cost them.
And there's literally one Georgia Tech player there and 6 Florida State guys, and Georgia Tech gets it.
So that's a lot of being opportunistic, and the difference. It's not just luck. And another and another difference between turnovers and takeaways. Yeah. So shoot, man, go Dylan. Like it would be not as much fun because you don't get to be on offense a ton. But would be a lot of fun because then we could stop talking about getting takeaways. Yeah. Be opportunistic. Being opportunistic comes from being in good position. Yeah. Right? Like
the more you're in good position, the more chances.
If I'm not scrambling and trailing, then I can listen. It isn't. Yeah. It isn't coincidence that Iowa gets takeaways. They're in good position a lot.
That's one of the major things from the football analytics movement that
sorry from the Iowa reference.
That's all right. You know. Everybody knows you love Iowa. It's okay.
And Shafe's still driving that thing home that I'm recruiting for Iowa. That's not true.
No. If anything, it's probably Wisconsin. That's fine.
No, because I had to hear yesterday in Lincoln down at Big Red Wrap Up that apparently I'm recruiting for Oklahoma. I'm like,
you're recruiting for Oklahoma now?
Yeah, I'm like, you guys realize Christian and I don't talk about recruiting.
Yeah.
Directly.
Sure.
We talk about what he's looking for. We don't talk about it like,
oh, how was Oklahoma?
How
was
Auburn? And that's we don't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's busy asking me if he can move to inside linebacker in case it gets hectic. I'm like, slow down, Chief. Okay.
Like I'm gonna need you to stay on the outside there, but
by the way, he's 234.
That's pretty big. What did he play at last year?
09.
Okay. So
he's got it.
25. Pounds?
Yeah. It's been his quad. He hasn't been able to be as active as he wants to be.
Yeah.
But we have now reached the point. I thought of you, unfortunately, yesterday morning at practice because we were talking about evolution of defense.
Yeah.
And he's starting to ask questions like he's becoming kind of a cheat code.
Like the next level questions.
Yes.
Yeah. Not just where am I supposed to be? What is my assignment?
But I'm like, oh my gosh, can I bring you donuts? That was sensational. I appreciate you asking me that. So anyway, like Nebraska to land the plane back to that's a terrible mustache, by the way, and that's why you gave up the go-ahead home run later on to the Fathers. Good job, Cardinals. Good job, Team Jordans. Oh, hey, that was a great catch. Can I have a hug on the way back to the infield? Just win. Get the Fathers out of the rearview mirror of the Dodgers.
You gonna be all right there?
No.
Okay.
So that's why the defensive stats could look a lot different and still be as good of a defense.
Yeah.
If you take the ball away, if you get off the field on third down, if the offense converts a few more third downs, like it'll just be interesting to see what complementary football really looks like.
Yeah, I do think people kind of need to prepare themselves for it not looking quite the same, but still being effective, right? And national rankings or whatever, I think they were 18th last year in points allowed per game at, I think, 18 points per game. Like that number.
That's where we need a Dave Fight or somebody.
What? Oh, yeah, just off the top of their head there.
Yeah, I got like 3 statisticians. I got to check on my guy RDK too.
You got to check in on Stu Manji lately?
Yeah. Where's he been?
I don't know.
I may have to send him a message.
Yeah, he used to chime in all the time.
Yeah,
but
might be busy flying helicopters.
Is he fly helicopters too?
I think so.
We got 2 helicopter pilots?
Man, who knows with me? I could be out to lunch.
You know Stu Manji and SkyMax aren't the same person, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just making sure. I'm just making sure you weren't confusing them.
Yeah, I'm well aware.
Because it feels like the chances of you confusing
it feels
two.
Like, listen, I got this. Okay? I got this. I can compartmentalize just fine when I need to. Just give me a little room.
Okay.
Give me a little wiggle room to kind of settle in.
I just feels like the chances of
kind of like Nebraska after the first 9 points scored yesterday.
Confusing those two is more likely than the fact that we have 2 helicopter pilots that listen to us.
Kaboom.
I'm not saying it's impossible. It just seems I'm playing the averages here.
Shane, do you feel like his man bun is pulled back too tight? Maybe it is condensing his blood flow.
No, I feel all right.
I don't know.
It is snug. That's giving me a headache. Are you sure that's
so it's actually not that snug on my head. I just did the actual
fudge.
This part tighter.
Yeah.
Like the actual kind of wrap tighter, but it's actually looser on my head than normal.
Messing with me.
It's like loose. You can see it's all loosey goosey up here.
Yeah.
I'm good to go.
She should have given that
little bobblehead. I'm good to go.
Should have given that to Osaka yesterday because she had all sorts of things going on under that visor.
Yeah, you gotta keep that hair back a little bit better. That would be distracting to me.
That nice 12 minutes.
That would drive me crazy.
Soap, the tennis, the football, the hot takes.
I blame you. I started on football.
Football.
I was surprise. I was thinking about Dylan Raiola yesterday, as you might imagine.
Surprise.
Crush.
Well, I mean, he also spoke publicly, so I think that was part of it. You know.
Yeah.
But
Are you sure you don't want his? Are you sure you don't want his barber?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah,
that's a story I keep in house.
I don't.
Coach Rule has 2 barbers.
Does he?
Yeah.
One in Omaha, one in Lincoln?
No, guy for high and tight. We know when he wants the blade and the fade, and another guy for, the thinning on top, and he wants the scissors cut.
Okay.
I sure hope so.
Thank you for watching the Big Red Wrap-Up last night. Make sure you catch the replay on Thursday.
I will. Don't worry.
That was a nice little sit-down.
I was watching sports last night. I apologize.
I know. Listen, volleyball is...
Volleyball. I was watching U.S. Open, watch a little baseball.
How scary was Louisville?
Yeah.
I mean, was that strictly being at the Yum and the home crowd, or
I don't know?
They overwhelmed them.
Yeah, I don't have a great frame of reference for how good, because I'm a volleyball novice, admittedly.
Yeah,
so
I made one mistake.
Okay,
but I didn't. I think it was only 2. I only text Jacob twice, but I didn't realize he's only been covering volleyball for 10 years. But then I forgot how young he was.
What do you mean only 10 years?
I know.
That's like half his life.
Did you hear him yesterday when you stuck around for that nonsense?
During the podcast?
Did you just not want to attach a light switch to solder and shut him off? Just put a little flip switch on his shoulder and be like, boop.
Just a second. Just pause.
What were we doing?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Thank you, dear baby Jesus.
Yeah.
yeah.
Really
Sounds
good.
about right.
Yeah. I liked it. even Jacob is no nonsense.
Yeah.
Jacob is like data. And Jacob's like, okay, moving right along.
Those are my favorite when Jacob's just like, all right, let's keep rolling.
Dude, and I've worked with JP so much, it's like, and we could do those shows normally in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I get it. It was the first
That was like
go
a
around
full hour.
of NEB preps.
Yeah.
But Jacob was looking at Mike like, bro,
Let's go.
and I wanted to tap him, but you know how guys respond to like touching stuff.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to like give him the like knee tap, but I didn't want him to like jump and be like, whoa,
With arms wide open.
keep your hands to yourself, bro. Like, cool.
Yeah.
But at least you did try to keep it to football. But I mean, why do that? It's Wednesday. Everybody's gassed. I'm looking forward to Shane's intro on Friday.
I'm excited.
I can't wait. He thinks it's like $1 million.
It's exciting.
And Shane, I'm just gonna tell you, like, after this going forward, like, don't shoot your shot so early. Like, because you set the tone.
Yeah.
Like, this thing is gonna be unbelievable.
Yeah. Like, what are you going to do for Colorado?
You should have just lowballed it and been like, hey,
Yeah, slow burn.
like
It's no big deal.
yeah, I don't know
You're like,
about
we'll
this
see.
intro.
We'll
We'll
see.
see. You know, kind of go Coach Rule.
See, I would say the opposite, though, because Coach Rule's like, hey, I think we're a good football team. Like, he's saying
He's been saying that
He's
for
saying
like
it.
2 months.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how you get here. It
Which
matters
is
about
why
what you
I
do.
I
didn't
once you're here.
understand the trepidation after chasing 53.
I think Shane is doing the Coach Rule. He's like, hey, it's a good intro. We're good. We got a good intro here.
So you know what's funny?
What's that?
I got the sense last night of a guy that usually plays it pretty close to the vest.
Mhm.
Even Jay Moore was excited.
Really?
Oh, I was shocked.
About my intro?
Yes.
That's awesome.
He
Thank
was
you,
like,
Jay.
guys,
I can't wait till you hear it.
somebody leaked
I would
Shane's
love
intro.
I would love for you to give me some feedback on it.
Like, he's very cut and dry.
Yeah.
You know, but he's seen a couple practices and he's like, man, on the hoof. And
Looked pretty good.
yeah, you know, he was a really good player.
Yeah,
he
yeah,
spent time in like his
Elkhorn guy.
his standards
Right,
are
Elkhorn?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, pub.
Yeah. Well, that's all there was at the time.
Not pub, but
original.
just
OG.
OG.
Yeah, there wasn't anything else when he was there.
Nope. I'm a big fan of his little brother too. I always thought he was tougher. I wonder what he would say. But that's neither here nor there.
I'm guessing he would not say his little brother was tougher than
Oh, he
him.
might.
You think?
Well, they both get it from their dad.
Well, sure.
Yeesh.
Yeesh.
Yes, sir.
One-time 49er, Jay Moore.
So anyway, like for guys like that to kind of feel good,
Mhm.
and I asked him too, I'm like, is this just because we like what he says and it's real applicable to like what we do, so
Yeah.
we're encouraged, or are you separating the fact that it's about he's actually talking about football?
Yeah, the football stuff.
Yeah, and he's this is all fair, and he's kind of looking at me like, do I strike you as the type of guy that would be fooled or enamored by some old car salesman-y stuff? Yes, I can separate the He didn't say all that, but that was the look.
I was like, you can see it in his eyes.
Yeah.
He's like, DB, what are you even asking?
And he's like 6'12", so he's looking down at me, and it's like,
He's only 6'5".
dude, he's a big
big dude.
He's a big dude.
He's a big dude.
And I'm just thinking, if these guys actually believe that,
Yeah.
it would be incredible. Because we have
I
to
mean, the players or the coaches?
players.
Yeah.
Because we talked very little in this offseason about the physical prowess.
Yeah.
It's all been about, hey, mental approach
Yeah.
and how you attack the day and
Well, you know why?
process. And
Do you know why?
because it's an emotional hurdle they got to get
Because
over.
I don't think it's been a talent thing for years.
No, I've said you ain't got to tell me.
Like-
I'm 100% locked in. I said there's been a handful of games
Yes.
over this dismal spell where we were like,
they're
oh
better.
my God, they're just
better.
physically better than
Yeah.
us.
And it's mostly been like Ohio State, Michigan. That's about it.
Yeah.
Like that's about it, really.
Yeah.
Everybody in the Big Ten West, I was like, yeah, Nebraska physically can match up with any of these
Mhm.
people and is better than a lot of them. You know,
Everybody.
I've never thought especially in the last 8 years. Now, if you're talking about going from, getting to 8 or 9 wins to that next hump, okay, we're out of a different conversation. But to be where they were for the talent they had
Mhm.
is inexcusable.
Your voice is cracking. Are you excited?
I'm just so emotional.
I know why mine cracks.
It's because you've been yelling and coaching.
Sometimes I just lack testosterone.
We can fix that for you.
Yeah, I am 50. I'm looking for all sorts of cheat codes. What do you get? What do you get?
I know a guy.
You got a guy?
We got a guy.
Man, pump me up.
I might have, I don't want to spoil anything.
You know me. I'd rather be caught with than without.
We might have, might got a little new friend of the program.
Hey, what's with the loosey goosey shake? Hey,
yeah, I've been watching Steph Curry too much. Get a little shoulder shimmy.
It always has to go back to Steph.
Always, 100% of the time.
Yeah. So folks were not excited about my Emmett Johnson MVP take. I got that sense.
I got zero pushback on Turner Corcoran. So either people were too focused on you, or they're like, "Oh, that guy's just crazy."
Yeah. You think you got the eye roll?
Maybe.
Yeah.
People are so much more negative about Turner Corcoran than I am that I don't really like. It's to the point where I don't get it.
You'd appreciated my restraint and discipline yesterday because I wanted to go in and I was 30 yards from the complex.
Yesterday?
They were just finishing up meetings.
Yeah.
And you know what I did? I kept my sunglasses on. I did park poorly.
Just kept on pushing?
I parked like on the curb at the complex. I went and got my credentials, got my parking pass. I did not stop in the facility at all.
Yeah?
Yeah. How about that?
Why not?
Well, number one, I was out of time because I had to get back over to the studio. But number two, it just wouldn't have felt right. Too close to game week to be
fraternizing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great word.
Yeah. I got you.
That's a great word.
No distractions.
Yeah.
Keep the blinders on.
100%.
I got you.
I had a coach who shall remain nameless did not like my gear one day down in Lincoln. And he said, man, he's like, would you grow up and go get you some stadium issued gear? Utilize your resources. And I was like, good morning. How are you? Good to see you. But then, Loki, I had to text Jay Terry. I was like, hey, I have to get some travel team issued gear.
Got my hands slapped
I
a little
just
bit.
got clowned for not wearing appropriate attire. So
that sounds
can I come see you? And I've been delaying that. I should have gone to see JT a while ago, right? Because he does help me with like travel gear and stuff. And I'm like, but I don't even try to. I don't want to show my face.
Yeah.
Right?
That sounds like something Coach Rule would say to you.
He shall remain nameless. I don't know who. No, real talk. Like I don't know who it was. I just know I felt like that was not a great hello.
Just judging by some of the phone calls you told me about, like that sounds.
It's not.
That sounds like.
Sometimes I just want like Coach.
Hey, why don't you use your resources?
Hey
bud?
man, how you been?
Hey, why don't you use your resources?
Hey, good to see you.
Why don't you go?
Nah.
Why don't you go get some stadium issue gear?
Grow up.
Use your resources, DB.
Grow up, man.
We'll be back to set up the show next on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. Coming up on the show today, Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7 at 8. Andy Kendeigh from KETV at 8:30. We've got Mitch Sherman from The Athletic at 9.
Oh, I'm excited.
And we'll wrap up the show with Nate Davis covering the NFL from USA Today.
I used to love Nate the Skate.
We're going to get you don't like him anymore?
Well, I haven't been paying enough attention.
Should we just cancel that interview?
No, man, I'm all in.
Okay.
Nate the Great.
I'm just excited to talk about NFL.
It's exciting.
That's fun.
I would actually like to talk about the NFL every day.
Let's do it. Let's talk about the NFL every day.
Other than quarterbacks.
But first, we got to talk about Dylan.
Whoa.
I do have a question.
I can't. Why did
about something he said.
First of all,
yeah.
Don't look at me like that. That was kind of awkward.
It was funny because I just thought it was funny. I liked the joke I was making, so that face was for me.
Yeah.
That was to add to the comedic effect.
Who says that?
Well, it's called self-awareness, DB. I know when I'm doing stuff, and it's only funny to me.
That face was for me.
Is it
It's kind of selfish.
better? Well, yeah. That's why I don't have kids, because I'm not capable of being that selfless.
Selfish.
Let's talk quarterbacks. You got that twinkle in your eye.
Let's talk about Dylan.
What a weirdo.
I did have a question about something he said yesterday.
What?
I'm curious.
I don't even know if I have an answer.
Probably not, if I had to guess.
Wow.
You might. You've got experience in these situations a little bit.
Okay.
Well, that's a great question, Rob.
No, it's not.
It is. Some
And why are we hearing from Jerome so early?
some people would even call it a beautiful question. You know, maybe the head coach of the football program.
It's a beautiful question.
No, he said
He told Severe last night. That's a great question. I wonder if that's to buy himself time to give an answer. Because I don't think any of you guys are that smart.
Well, mine was actually a good question in that
That's
moment.
a beautiful question.
See, I don't have a lot of them. Like I don't have a lot of moments, but I was like, that was actually a good question. I'm glad he acknowledged it.
Yeah, I'm out.
For the most,
Thanks, guys.
I'm out on Ravi.
for the most part, yeah, people use that as kind of they buy themselves a little buffer.
But it
kind of
is probably a good question.
Yeah, I don't know about Severe's, but mine definitely was.
No, it was actually a good question. It was. It was
What was the question?
He asked about the impact of NIL and his role in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever heard anybody kind of ask it that way.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting.
Yeah, now that they're officially tied together with the athletic department, it's a whole different deal.
Yep.
Because you can't just be like, oh, I don't want anything to do with it. I don't know. Don't tell me.
Yeah, it was a really good.
I don't want to give a recruit a drive to NIL meeting. I'll get suspended for 3 games. What?
I mean,
I'm not bitter.
Hot take.
Exactly.
Not bitter.
Hot take. By the way, Stallion sucks. That was not what I thought.
No, it wasn't good.
That was incredible.
Yeah.
Dude,
that's a dude that's
That's
a dude that still thinks he's going to coach college football. That's what that was.
So he got paid for that?
I would imagine. I don't know why they do. Like, I don't know.
So who did the narrating? Was it a Michigan guy?
A Michigan man?
I felt like that was
a Michigan man.
I felt like there was a little slant.
Oh yeah, for sure. It kind of felt like The Last Dance, where it's like, yeah, like Jordan definitely got final cut on this.
No,
I was okay with it.
Stop. You were.
I loved it.
You were enthralled with The Last
No,
Dance.
I loved it because I love Jordan, so he can get final cut on whatever he
officially
wants.
referred to him as like the COVID king after that.
I mean,
Like, this dude got me through COVID.
I love Last Dance. I probably watch it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan.
I pick and
Also,
choose.
I
pick and choose my episodes.
Yeah, I also like 3 drink MJ. Like that's my favorite version of MJ. Because when he's MFing people, that's my favorite. It's like the first time he seemed like a real person. I love it.
Yeah.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.
Before we get to my Dylan question, let's get to TK on the Hurrdat hotline here. Got Nebraska football and volleyball. Whoa, that's a lot going on there. TK, what's up?
Good morning, fellas. How we doing?
We are doing. Ravi's still Ravi, but other than that, we're good.
Yeah, we still tasting the Irish Spring.
All right, I moved on from that, TK.
No, you're exactly right.
It was an accident. If I get soap poisoning, I'm gonna be like Oh Boy on Christmas Story, and you guys are gonna feel bad. I already can't see,
but
I can't read.
But instead of like the guy on Christmas Story saying you're gonna say fuck.
All right, everybody's got jokes. Cool story. Appreciate you guys.
What's up, TK?
So is the only thing stopping Lindsey Krause from winning National Player of the Year the embarrassment of riches at Nebraska?
Oh, you're on my hype train. That a boy. Can you believe she's a senior?
It is a tragedy what happened last year.
It's incredible. Yeah, what she missed. It was a great number, but I'm sorry she had to miss games. But 21 of them because of the ankle. Hey, so
right.
did you know what that delay was with the substitution? They had to go back and make good on what happened with what line that occurred. So I'm listening. I'm like, and Severe had it on his phone. Then I go back and watch it. I'm like, what is going on? But the one good thing about that is, even though the rotation got off, she was like in the back middle. I was like, let's go. Showing a little versatility. Yeah, I'm a huge fan. Huge fan.
I don't envy John Cook one bit.
Yeah.
Because I have no clue how he's going to have to play all those people. Because like Andy Jackson started, but she was not near on the floor as much as I would have put her out there.
Yeah. In the famous words of one John Baylor, that is Andy Stonewall Jackson.
Exactly.
I mean, there's definitely worse problems to have
than depth.
Yeah.
Then, hey, I've got too many good players. What do I do with them all?
Hey,
I get that it's a problem, but it's kind of like Biggie, like the Mo Money, Mo problems. It's like, yeah, you might have more problems, but they're better problems.
And how about a good one he ran into with Alec with 11 kills? Like somebody that is that good defensively that there's no way you're thinking, oh, this is repeatable. This is something I could get.
She has incredible control now.
Yep.
On those spikes. she is like, she's not hitting them very hard. Like, obviously she's hitting them hard, but like, they have great control in getting in between blockers. The one that she got between 3 people was crazy on an angle.
So
like the second set.
Last year it was Beeson. Like that was like my fave. I've morphed into Lindsay, but man, Choboy is gonna give her a run for her money because she talks crazy out there. I wish I could just be like a little parrot on her shoulder and wonder what she's saying to her teammates because she is tightly wound. Like she talks a ton, and she's fearless.
Yeah.
Fearless.
Yeah, that's good. That's the best part about her.
I listened to Coach Reyes after, I'm a big interview guy. I didn't realize he's still only 32.
Whew.
He's been with Coach Cook 7 years. But he told he told a great story. You want to know how Coach Reyes is a monster recruiter? He told a story about DeLay from Kentucky. Because at one point during that match, she was hitting like 600, I think. She ended up hitting like 190.
Yeah.
But he was talking to Baylor about kind of, her emergence and, setting in the middle. And, of course, that got Lo Cook going because she's a big set the middle person, right, instead of the pins. But anyway, he was talking about her versatility and how she kind of fell off the radar, even though she's in Harper Murray's class and those guys, and she was an amazing player. She tore her ACL, so she kind of fell off the grid. She wasn't making a lot of the national teams and playing in the national scene. But he said she was a top 10 player in the country. And just for that to be in his recall as somebody that had done his homework, I was like, oh, it kind of makes sense that people around those volleyball circles talk about his recruiting prowess. Like he just told that story like seamlessly. Like it was in his frontal lobe. He's like, oh yeah, like her versatility. There's going to be some things that we take from what they did that we can use. And I'm just like, this dude's amazing. I almost wanted to hit record, but I was in a car that wasn't mine, so I don't know how to do anything with the buttons. So I just had to sit there and listen.
Yep. I don't know how they're going to keep him for another 5 years.
I don't know, man, because it seems like Cook's got a little in the tank too.
Send him out, bring him back.
I think he's ready.
All right, TK, we appreciate the call. We will be back to wrap up hour number 1 coming up here next on Hurrdat Sports Radio. You're listening on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. Welcome back. Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, where you can join us on Friday. That's just a couple days away now for our live show.
Let's go.
To preview the UTEP game right here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Make sure you get to Eventbrite and search Hurrdat Sports Radio to reserve your tickets. There'll be breakfast, there'll be drinks, and there'll be me and DB. Presented by Ep Foundation Repair. Make sure you come check us out.
And probably your new partner in crime, which is mildly disgusting.
What?
Well, he does work from home. I wonder if Ryan can break away and come see you. Come say hi.
Maybe.
A couple of Knowles weirdos.
If not, I'll probably just see him on Monday.
This whatever this stuff is going on social media, you two need to knock it off.
Well, we're just being friends.
I don't appreciate
This is your fault. You introduced us.
Well, that's fine. But the whole the 3-way tag match, I feel like I'm one short. I need a partner to tag out to. It's incredible.
I think you introduce me to people and then forget that other people like me, and then you're like, hey, what's going on here?
Well, you got to know going in, there's a 98% chance they won't. Ryan is a 2%er. Oklahoma Tyler, 2%er.
I'm saying the percent seems awfully high with the people you hang out with.
And Micah, just what do those 3 people all have in common?
I mean, DJ, that.
No, DJ is different.
A lot of people.
DJ's the outlier.
A lot of people you introduce me to end up liking me. I don't know.
DJ's the outlier. Micah, Oklahoma Tyler, and RP all have that.
Have the what, DB?
Kind of have that I couldn't care less to them.
I mean, your mom likes me. Caleb likes me.
She shouldn't count. She likes
I
everybody.
mean, Caleb doesn't like everybody. He likes me.
She's like, I like how the blue brings out the blue and the brown. You look nice.
I do look nice. Thank you.
No, I would never say that to her. I think I just said thank you. Maybe I didn't say anything. I don't know.
Well, you got to reply to your mom's text, DB. Come on.
I'm going back to look.
You got to go back.
Oh
and
my
get that.
goodness.
What did I say? I said, I said yes, because she said, did you hear Coach's interview with Michael? I wanted to say, well, I'm in studio. I can hear it. But I didn't.
Yeah.
Because, like, full disclosure, like, it was pre-recorded. So it was like 20 minutes that I could have just sat there and done nothing.
Yeah.
And Jay Moore disappeared. I wonder where he went.
Probably working. doing something.
Nope. You know what? He was talking to Gascan because he had just gotten the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our guy.
It's neither here nor there. Let's talk quarterbacks, because
I would
you
love to.
have an affinity for
I just have a question.
young Dylan.
I have a question.
So if it's what I think it is, I don't know.
What do you think it is?
I think it's the deal where they talked about they're trying to practice and be like the NFL, and it didn't go over well.
Oh, no. I did have that other question, but that wasn't the one I was talking about this time.
Oh gosh. You know how these open-ended don't prep me questions go, right?
Yeah, they usually go great.
Okay.
I like getting your
Oh, he got stoned. Fire away.
I do like getting your like you haven't had a chance to overthink it kind of responses.
Yeah.
So
whatever.
Dylan said something yesterday about he was asked a question about his receivers and about how they earn his trust and things like that. He kind of turned the answer around and said, well, I actually have to earn their trust. This is a real question. I'm not being snarky. Is that a real thing, or is that just him trying to be humble?
No, that's a real thing.
Okay, so explain that to me, because we hear the other way around a lot. We don't hear that it framed that way very often.
He understands full well what he's dealing with. And there are some guys that have been there and done that. You know, you have the Banks, right? You have the Fedonis. There are a couple of guys.
It's been a minute, but Nair has been productive in the Division I level.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even count him, but I would count him.
Yeah.
Right? So if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Bonner.
Yeah.
Where there are these guys that have this presence.
They've been around a little bit.
Real veteran-y, kind of unflappable, understand protocol, lead by example, and he's the new guy. So even though he's the distributor and he's the what's the person, the headliner, like he understands the role that they play. So I think it's just reverence to how they do their work. I don't think that was quarterback talk at all.
Okay.
I don't.
Because you could understand how it would come off that way.
No, because I'm not that cynical. So no, you don't have to defend it. I'm just not.
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
No, that's fine.
I try to really, is that 7? Stay in the moment of what's being said and not get into that so much. Like, because I think for Dylan, what he's already done is he's become kind of an extension of that coaching staff, but some of it comes by naturally. What's he do? He deflects compliments and he absorbs criticism.
That's why I thought it might be I thought it might be a deflection.
So
not cynical, but a deflection.
But let's say that's how you think. Yeah. Right? Because clearly it was.
Yeah. I thought it could be.
How impressed would you be that he could do that real time?
I'd be super impressed.
Okay. So that's part of it too.
Yeah. Like
just having the wherewithal of self-awareness.
The way that I heard it was the same way I was hearing it every time Coach Rule or Sat or Glenn Thomas or whoever was asked about the quarterback room in general, or was asked about Dylan Raiola specifically, and then they answer with the quarterback room in general. I always took it as like, hey, this might be true, but it's also a deflection, right? Every time they're like, oh, hey, what makes Dylan special? And they give a couple of things. It's like, hey, but I think we're going to need all 3 guys to get through the season. And so they're like, hey, this part.
You do know that's true, right?
Yes. No,
okay. Because
it's a deflection doesn't mean it's not true.
I don't know why people keep saying that, like, to be lighthearted and funny.
No, I'm
not. Yeah. Stop. No. Don't do that. Don't do that. I want you to be able to be like Willie. I want you to be free to think what you want without having to explain it. So I'm not saying you. Generally speaking, I don't know why people still think it's cute and funny to lump the quarterbacks together, knowing full well there's a 98% chance they will all come into play somehow. If you don't think that's the case, you have not been watching the last 7 years of Nebraska football.
Well, I think there's also, I think I heard this yesterday.
Doesn't mean a guy can't be the guy.
Right.
But you don't play the game by yourself, and it's a long game.
I think
you have to play the long game.
I heard this yesterday, and I don't remember where, so I apologize to not giving credit to whoever said it or wrote it. But I believe in 5 of Coach Rule's previous 7 years as a head coach, it took multiple quarterbacks to get through the season.
We've talked about that.
Yeah.
Though. We went through the P.J. Walker, the quarterback race, by the way. Hopefully somebody picks him up because he got cut
Charlie
yesterday.
Brewer, the whole thing.
He's done that.
Whether it's injury, whether it's competition, whatever it is, taken multiple quarterbacks to get through most of his seasons. Obviously, we've seen it take multiple quarterbacks to get through most of Nebraska seasons. But I think that something can be true, and you're deflecting from the original question at the same time, right? Like you can deflect from saying,
yeah, I do that all the time.
Right. So you can be like, hey, I don't really want to answer the question you asked me. I'm going to give you this other information.
Yeah.
And Coach Rule's really good at that.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
Coach Rule's really good at. And so I was impressed.
I hear you.
Real time that I thought Raiola was able to do that as an 18-year-old.
Yeah. After
only being around him for 8 months or whatever. But I wasn't sure how much of a reality there is in, hey, I have to earn the trust of my receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Now I get kind of a team in general.
Well, he doesn't know the most.
Right.
He's just the facilitator. Now he'll get to a point where he knows the most and he'll have experience to go along with that. But he's still not to go all 90s, but he's the new kid on the block.
Yeah.
Right? Like
big I am Mark, the other guy.
I am a new kids on the block guy.
Who's the other Wahlberg?
Yep. Have we not
Donnie?
have we ever not listened to Please Don't Go Girl?
I don't think so. We're not allowed to listen to music here anymore, remember?
Hanging Tough? No, that's just Shane being a pee-pee tucker. Like he can do it. He just is worried about cutting up 20 seconds.
Donnie Wahlberg. That was the New Kids on the Block guy?
The burgers?
Wahlberger. Isn't Donnie in New Kids on the Block?
I don't know.
I think there's a Wahlberg in New Kids on the Block, but it's not Marky Mark.
There was a Lachey, right?
Like Nick?
Yeah.
No, that's 98 Degrees.
Oh, well, whatever.
Just when you get home, check your CD collection.
I don't even have CDs. By the way, the rental or the loaner has a
CD player?
Yeah.
Man, I haven't seen a car with a CD player in a minute.
That's awesome.
No, actually, it's not.
That vehicle totally fits you.
Setting up my Bluetooth took 22 minutes.
I was kind of looking at some.
I would buy that though.
I was kind of looking at some used cars, and because like there's some like older like body styles and stuff that I like, and I'm like, would I play CDs? Like I
don't have any.
I just found a bunch when I was helping my parents clean out their old house.
I don't have any.
I found some of the binders of them, and I was like, well, I've got them now. I think they're in my storage unit.
So whomever that vehicle belongs to, there is a CD case in the back, but I don't have the stones to just be noticed.
Start flipping through it.
Nope, not my business.
What do we got? We got like some like Pearl Jam in there.
I have no idea.
Nirvana.
No idea.
New Kids on the Block, maybe.
No idea.
98 Degrees.
Okay.
Backstreet Boys. Backstreet's back. All right.
I noticed you picked all the
Back in the day.
the Anglo groups. There was like Shy, and there were
Boys to Men.
Yes.
All for One.
Yeah,
You
there
want
were
Keith Sweat.
Yeah, that wasn't part of the bubblegum boy band era. But I don't think DR was deflecting. I think he understands that. Like if you watch Fedoni and Bonner and Banks and those guys do business, there is a certain level of reverence that you can have from watching those guys just show up and go to work.
So is that more of like a football on the field trust or a general like, hey, trust the young guy?
Hey, I got you. You guys have paid a price. I want to do my part.
Okay, so like a more general spectrum. I got you. That makes sense to me. We'll talk to Brian Christopherson coming up next. Husker 24/7. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by Brian Christopherson of Husker 24/7. What's up, BC?
Man, Shane got a lot of mileage out of that segment a couple of weeks ago where I was like 4 coffees in and was doing my stand-up act. I just heard about 3 drops from that. We're in that opener.
Yeah, you and me, BC. Sometimes I think we're in the tree of trust, and then I come in some mornings and I'm a little gassed up and I say a lot of crazy things. And the next thing you know, I have to hear about it for 2 years. So it's like, hey, well, welcome to the club. You always got to be on guard if you're kind of in a mood.
To me, it's like crunch time, baby.
Right?
Yeah.
Hey, come on, Shane. Do better.
I think the Ace Hardware was my favorite line.
Yeah, you got guys and walking into Ace Hardware without their shirts on.
I'm not going to lie, BC, I laughed out loud. That's like, of all the things he could have said, it's pretty funny.
That's why my grandpa always said, listen more than talk, because I guess they can't make drops if you're listening. But that wouldn't be good radio, so I'll talk here a little bit.
There's crickets chirping. Hey, so Ravi asked me a question, and I did refrain from choking him because it's not his fault that he asked it. I think we have not been able to handle when the coaches say it. And it's in regards to multiple quarterbacks and everybody's needed, right? We kind of roll our eyes and, he named the quarterback late and it was like a well-duh moment. And I just think it's interesting, right? Because we have such short-term memory. Like, we've had some quarterback battles and we didn't think they were battles. And, for all the love that Martinez got, Frost didn't name him till the week of the start. Like, it's been worse. But as the amazing Daniel says, BC, across college football in general, multiple quarterbacks have been needed to get through a season. Why do we have such a hard time consuming when the coaching staff says that?
I don't know. Hopefully we don't moving forward, because you're correct, and amazing Daniel is correct that.
Don't say that. We'll never hear the end of it. He's a BC guy too. Oh gosh, it's over.
Well, he's reading the right scripture on that. I mean, it feels like
Oh geez, you realize, BC, he self-glossed amazing. He'll never come down off of this now.
He's right, though. I mean, most every team's going to have to use multiple guys, and I think people don't like to talk about it sometimes because it's the cruel side of sports, and there's things that pop up. Like, it doesn't have. I'm not talking about like a season-ending injury or something to a player, but guys are going to go through something nagging, or they're going to have to go out a few plays, and there's going to be a key moment late in the first half where someone has to come in a pinch and be ready. And that is a constant every season. I can't remember one where that hasn't happened. And you brought up Taylor Martinez. Like, I remember his senior year was cut pretty short, as people might recall. When everybody was all excited about that, you would have just thought we could build the whole offseason storyline around him. Tommy Armstrong ended up playing, half the year by the end of it. So that's the way it works most of the time. And so a coach should always have his guys thinking you should be ready to be called on, because it's almost a certainty you are going to be called on.
BC, how much do you consider in that sort of equation about multiple QBs the fact that QB run game isn't going to factor in nearly as heavily? And the last time a guy did make it through the season intact, more for lack of a better term, was Tanner Lee, who also was not part of the quarterback run game, really.
Yeah, I mean, that might help a little bit for Ryla's sake, but you know what? I think he's going to be. I'm not saying they're going to run the ball just with a diet of like planned QB runs as much with him, and that's what I think you're talking about. But I do think people are going to be surprised with his footwork and sort of the way he can move around. I think there's sometimes some thought on him that he's not a statue, but he's not as mobile as I think he actually is. And he's worked really hard on his pocket presence. If you listen to Matt Rule and Dylan himself talked about it the other day. And I think he's going to extend some plays too, and he's going to get out and have to improvise a little bit, and you're going to see some of that. So with that, of course, there's some risk, but it's a fair question. It's not going to be the same as like, okay, this guy will maybe line up on 3rd and 4 out of the gun and our quarterback's running it. I don't know if we'll see quite as much of that from him, but I always leave my mind open because sometimes I think I know stuff that a guy can or can't do, and then it's 3rd and 4, and they call that exact play with the guy I didn't expect. So we'll see.
Hey, BC, how comfortable are you that Nebraska is going to use real games to kind of audition their backfield?
I'm okay with it in this case because I think there's all a level of good there. Like there's they are all solid. And now the question
and they're all
is,
kind of different.
Yeah, they are.
Right? You got
So
you got a scat, you got a slasher, you got a combo, you got a hammer.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I do think there's that point pretty soon where you'd like kind of your 1-2, and then maybe there's a guy who has his own role a little bit. And I don't know how that's going to play out, honestly. I got asked that the other day, and I feel like my answer could change like from Tuesday to Wednesday of who I would favor in that competition. So that basically means I don't know, which is common. But I do think the fact that you look at like Emmett, Ramir, Gabe, and you go through each of them and what they can do, and you say, okay, that's a good baseline at least. I feel good about that. I know I'm going to get something solid there, but I like how Rule was specific about it. And what's next now is, okay, they blocked it for 4. I don't want you just getting 4. I want you, I think he said 12, getting 12 or getting 80. You know, like we've got to find that guy who gets those extras. And I always think of the guy who can get 3 or 4 when it's nothing, when there should be nothing there. I always think that's the best work a back can do, when he gets his team into like 2nd and 6 down in distance when it should have been 2nd and 11. If you can find a guy of those 3 or 4 who separates and is that type of back, sign me up for him every day.
BC, yeah, I know you wrote about Janarin Bonner earlier in the week, and I'm trying to figure out, you know, every time we see his name on the depth chart at wide receiver, it seems like we try and talk ourselves sort of out of the fact of him just being a wide receiver. And it seems like we sort of forget the fact that he was a 4-star wide receiver coming in, but because he got moved to fullback for a minute, we're like, oh, well, I mean, how are they going to use him? It's like, maybe he's just a wide receiver.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think he definitely has that skill set where it's you need 5 or 6 yards on a 2nd and 5. He's a perfect guy, I think, who's going to be a tough matchup in the slot. Now, I do think because of his fullback background and stuff like that, he's going to be a physical presence as a blocker and all that stuff on the outside. I think that's going to be a huge part of his game. But he's got really strong hands. Everything I've heard about him, he's a really good route runner. And you're right in the way you brought up the question. He was a really well thought of recruit when he came in here as a wide receiver. And so I don't think people should sleep on that at all. I think he would not be with the top line if he were just a guy who was going to go out and block on the perimeter for Isaiah Nayor or something. Like he's a guy who can get stuff done in matchups against defenders that I think a quarterback is going to find very useful.
When you're talking about, you know, how Dylan says, hey, you know, I'm a part of, it's not just me, I can't do it by myself. Pretty easy to separate quarterback speak from reality, considering the latter has been talked about since he stepped foot on campus.
Yeah. And I think he's respectful too in everything he says about, like, yeah, he's the guy we always talk about who gets up and he's on the bike or whatever. He's throwing the guys at 6 a.m. and then he's studying film till 9:30. But I think he'd be the first to say there's a lot of his comrades who are right there with him, wide receivers, you know, who are like Ja'Cory Barney. I know those two were our roommates, I believe, and you know, they'd get up and throw together all the time. And so, you know, he knows how much work those guys have put in to be precise with where they are. And like he said, even the amount of running they do to get open, like the amount of, you know, toll or miles they put on their body to be ready for this. And so there's a responsibility you feel within that. Like, I just got to do my part because I know those guys have worked really hard to do theirs. So I want to kind of meet to have that merger there where all our skill sets and everything we've worked at, maybe what I do is different than what you do as I get ready, but it all comes together now. And so I thought he was really respectful and like a few of his answers and kind of leading the conversation that way yesterday.
BC, does it feel at all to you like when he answers questions that way that it's sort of a reflection of the coaching staff in the way that they tend to deflect things that could be seen as overly complimentary to them and still give you some truth, but just not really to answer the question that you asked? Like it kind of feels similar to me sometimes of what you hear from Coach Rule.
Yeah, I would say so. And I mean, right now there's a lot of we're in that week or two before the season where everybody's writing their big Dylan Raiola stories, and they're really gonna pump up an individual even more than he has been. And I always think it's important for a player in those moments, like it just focus yourself on what you have to do and what you have to do for your team and the guys around you. And usually you're in a good headspace if you can do that and not get all caught up in, every question is about you or like, how you did this or did that. Like there's going to be a lot of parts that have to work right for this season to be what Nebraska wants it to be. Dylan is one of them. But I think he knows there are also really good players that are going to help make him look good too. Like I go back, Ravi, to the spring. He was being asked sort of about like the home run ball and sort of the deep passing game. And obviously people are excited to see him unload a few of those or hit Jalen Lloyd for that big 50 or 60 yarder. But he brought the answer to sort of the short passing game and knowing that he has the guys around him who get them the ball in space and they can take a short pass and that can be a 40-yard play without you throwing it down the field deep. So I think there's a really good understanding there and maturity. And that short to intermediate passing game and the rhythm he has with those guys is going to be as important as anything for this team this season, I think.
Yeah, I just hope they come out and like fake 32 roll, 9 go and just chuck that thing 68 yards on the first play of the game.
That'd be all right too. I mean,
how about the irony though? Because I just get the sense it's going to be something crazy because he's been very, very clear on a couple of things and they all mean the same. We're not going to play afraid. We're not going to play game. We're going to play game one and let it rip. We're going to play as though this is a playoff caliber team. We're not holding back. We're coming out guns a-blazing. Like he's told us all these things, right? I'm not. So I just wonder, like, would they just strike me as a type of team that would let something rip early and just say, hey, we're willing to roll the dice. What did he say the day before yesterday? BC's like, we're going to come out and play the way that we played. It may be slow early or whatever, but we're going to stay with it because that's how we want to play football. Like that just lets me know they're not coming out timid.
Oh, don't get me wrong. There's a nice little message you could send, not just your opponent on that day, but other people coming out, like having to play like you're talking about. And I could totally see that. I just think within the game and the season, I think back to these Husker years recent and sort of the short passing game. And there's been sort of the screen stuff where the quarterback has just missed on layups where there hasn't been any rhythm. And like, it feels like this chunk percentage of plays have just been left at the curb with no chance to succeed because some of the basics of like the short and intermediate passing game haven't been there. So I think if Dylan and the receivers bring that up like 2 notches, then everything else around it is going to look is going to really open up too, including some of those deep balls. But yeah, I don't doubt for a second that they could come out and try to hit a home run right off the bat. That wouldn't surprise me.
I'm not saying like White's going to roll out with like a 0 blitz, but like it just seems like they're going to be aggressive. They're not going to be on their heels. At least that's what I kind of gather.
Yeah. It's always fun that game people play this week. Like, okay, what's the first play call? And then everybody wants to have like the coolest call they've ever thought of, or their brain could imagine. And then it's like
fullback dive to Harburg.
Yeah, it'll be a 3-yard gain, 2nd and 7. And that's football, but it's fun. It will be fun if they went deep on the first play. I admit I would enjoy that.
Deep shot play 1. Let's go, baby.
Well, it's like 14 personnel, but Harburg's like the H-back, and they motion him to run dive. See, I told you they were going to play together. I mean, we picked through like Sat's comments. It's like, come on, you guys, let's just play football. Like
they need to run that play that Nebraska ran the 1 year at Michigan when Urban Meyer was in the booth, where they handed it off. I think they handed it off at the goal line to Rex, who then pitched it to Amir.
Yeah.
So they handed off to Harburg as a fullback, and then have him run an option, pitching it to Ramir Johnson. So that would be.
Let's bring Jalen Lloyd around in motion.
Or we could do
and then a reverse to Jalen.
We could do the one play they actually scored on against Minnesota, the bounce pass to Jeff Sims. Like, let's get Harburg out there.
Yeah, I don't know. Even that was ugly.
Let's bounce pass that baby out there and see what we can do.
Hey, BC, how much does your demeanor change though when you listen to them talk about special teams? Because it is it's a little bit of a tenor change.
Yeah, we have to talk in like the more somber tone. It's like when
isn't it weird though? I'm definitely concerned.
I am concerned about the kicking.
Yeah, it's like when the injury happens in the NFL and the Fox, they play the Fox like slow injury sad music to bring you to break. Yeah, they slow down. Yeah, I mean, I Rule's been transparent about
100%.
It's a worry. So that should tell you everything. I mean, he's the most candid coach I've ever covered. He really is. Like, it's all not just like rainbows over there all the time. Like, there's definitely some things he'll say where you can tell like it's really on his mind, and that's one of them. And I'm interested to see who they trot out first. I know Tristan's worked hard to get back, but as Rule said, there's that big difference between 90% and 100 in that particular job, especially. So we'll see if he got that extra 10% and how he's feeling. John Hull's a really interesting story. I mean, he didn't kick a whole lot, honestly. In high school, have a lot of attempts, and then redshirted last year. So that would be a big moment, stepping up for that first kick if he gets an opportunity, and also a really cool one if he knocks it through. So sometimes, as that coaching staff says, you give guys an opportunity to prove you right. You show your belief in them, and you say go out there and make the 42-yarder, and maybe they'll have it be one of those years where they go 14 of 17 and everything's good. It's happened that way several times, guys, where we've gone into seasons talking about the Husker kicking game and been worried about it, and then it's been good, and then there's been years we thought it was all put together and it hasn't been. So it's one of those where you're kind of going out on a limb trying to guess exactly how it's going to go.
BC, I wanted to ask about kind of a strange happening that was broken yesterday with the apparent enrollment of former LSU tight end Mac Markway. What can you tell us about that situation and how that played out? Because the timing of it's obviously pretty strange.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know a whole lot about him. I mean, I knew that
it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, I have to figure out, and I don't feel bad about saying that, because Satterfield was asked about him, and he said, yeah, I just heard about it the day before, the possibility. And so, I mean, I'll just say this, like anytime you can bring in a guy, whatever the eligibility situation is and how that works, I've still got to get my head around a little bit, but who was a 4-star and had the type of resume he did to attract that attention as a recruit. They're always interesting prospects to have in your locker room. Now, that said, I've kind of gotten to the point where I don't jump up and down and throw a parade because somebody was a 4-star like 2 years ago or a year, you know what I mean? And now they've transferred, and there's sort of this sometimes expectation, oh, he's just going to take off and fly here. We'll see what he does, but it's another just talented guy and way of pushing competition. And that's one thing I like about this staff. They're always looking for ways to get an edge and keep guys on their toes and give guys opportunities they think can help this program. It's a great way to, you talk about being aggressive on the field. This staff is very aggressive off of it, and we'll see if that can pay off over the years ahead.
See, I love that. Like, I like that you said that, because in my head, I'm just thinking, I love how they rather ask for forgiveness than permission. Okay, if there's a way to do something, they're going to figure it out. They're very on top of pushing the envelope, right? Because I think for so long we've just stood pat. Like, if you want something, go get it and wait for somebody to tell you otherwise. Like, I like the fact they're modeling that philosophy.
If you want the perfect example of that, think about when Rule first got here, how often everybody was like, what about the 85 man? Like, how are you going to get to 85 and stuff like that? And Rule's like, it'll be fine. We'll figure it out. And they've figured out a way to have the roster they have, and keep guys content, frankly, without a mass exodus or a lot of guys going in the portal. It's been really impressive in that way. And that was one of those topics we always talked about. How are you going to handle this? How are you going to handle it? And they just behind the scenes did handle it. They found a way to make it work. And this is a smaller example of find a guy who's out there that can help maybe. Yeah, why not? Bring him in and we'll make it work, and we'll see what he can do at some point.
BC, real quick before we get you out of here, got to get a season prediction from you and what you think the record's going to be.
I say 8-4, and if you want to get real specific in the bowl, I have them going to the ReliaQuest Bowl. I believe they can.
ReliaQuest
in Tampa. So that's where I have it, 8-4, and I'll say they win the bowl game and go 9-4. That's my call. So I am buying into the uptick in this Husker season. I think we're going to have a good year around here and have fun.
I think Ravi would take Tampa, and I'll keep him out of the Ray J. We'll be fine.
There we go, PC. We appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, B.
Yep, thanks a lot, guys.
Coming up next, we've got Andy Kendeigh from KETV here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and we're brought to you by our friends at Team Jack Foundation. Make sure you get to teamjackfoundation.org to get involved with that great organization. You can volunteer, you can see what events are coming up, or you can donate directly online there at teamjackfoundation.org, trying to find better treatments for childhood brain cancer and one day a cure. Joining us now is our friend Andy Kendeigh from KETV. What's up, AK?
Morning, boys. Happy game week. Congratulations. You made it through
the long off season, the long good night.
Hey, so like, you know, normal people, we're kind of on the, man, we finally got through. You're like on the uptick, like ready to go, wondering why everybody's dragging, aren't you? I mean, you're just getting ramped up to speed.
Yeah, no question. This is time. This is go time, right? You got to go time. Because if you don't have that attitude, you're going to get run over, right?
You're like, I'm healthy. I'm moving around well. I can have a beer again. Let's get after this season.
Yeah, that actually might be plural. I might be having 2 beverages after this weekend. But yeah, it's been. I'm actually pretty jacked up. I just about as excited as you're going to get for me to start a season. It's not just Nebraska, but the high school season kind of jacks me up. You know, because the Operation Football, we got a full slate of games. There's some question whether or not Bill says, hey, there's some question marks about whether on Thursday.
He's going to be on my speed dial. I'm just letting you know.
I know he will be. I mean, that kind of throws a wrinkle into it because we've been blessed with some pretty good weather for high school football last couple of years. So I don't know. This is kind of a go. You know, watching Nebraska. It was nice actually watching stuff that meant something. And watching Nebraska volleyball last night was pretty cool. Like, my goodness, this team is for real again this year. Not that anybody had any doubts, but it was nice to see affirmation while watching it with your own eyes on television.
Yeah, I'll start right there, right? It was pretty cool to watch, you know, the sluggish start. They were down 4 a couple of times in that first set. I think they were hitting minus 111 at one point. And it just felt like this is crazy, but I'm going to say this. It was the perfect start to overcome for a team that has lofty expectations.
I agree. It was almost like, hey, we can't just roll it out there and make it happen. We got to make it happen ourselves. And for this team that's so talented, I mean, think about who they have playing and who is not playing, right? I mean, you got Big Ten Player of the Year playing sparingly in the second set.
Yeah, Ravi's like, I don't envy Coach Cook.
I know, right? Talking about not having enough volleyballs, my goodness. And then you see, though, what they were able to do with a balanced attack between Alec and Beeson and Jackson and Murray and Krause, and the list could go on if necessary. But I just thought that, what they played great defense. They once they got their feet underneath them, they passed and served well. And you saw that Kentucky had some issues at the service line, but all I know is that I looked at Matt Patilli and I was like, keep December open. If you're going to vacation on Monday and Tuesday during the week.
Yeah, Andy, do you think at all? Because I've been thinking about the way last season ended, and then kind of the way people are going into this season. Obviously, it was disappointing in the loss to Texas, and then you didn't have that volleyball day in Nebraska the way you had last year to get people super ramped up for the season. Although I do think people are excited about it. I think people maybe have forgotten how young and talented that team was last year. Does that kind of make any sense?
No, it makes total sense. And the no seniors and the whole team is back. Not every piece, but almost all the pieces are back. And people forgot how young they were to get to that far at that point last December in Tampa. I do think that without that volleyball day, maybe there wasn't such a crescendo of hype to lead into the season. But that documentary actually served the purpose where people really got into and looking back at what last year was all about and kind of explained a couple things. I thought it was well done by ESPN. I thought it could have been longer because I thought they could have really gone a little deeper into some of the issues. But, I thought that served a purpose in terms of getting people, whetting people's appetite for volleyball. And I do think that this team has all the makings of a national championship team, and I think that's going to be a fun ride to see, especially how they navigate all the alphas on their squad and how you placate and how you satisfy people's need for playing time and contributing to the cause, and I think that's going to be a nice juggling act to watch as the season goes on with Coach Cook.
Yeah, I think the folks from E60, once they got there and figured out all these storylines are breaking, they're like, damn. We need we need like an E120 or an E.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
at least an E.
I mean, that's how left brain people think. Like those stories just unfolded. Let me ask you something, AK. Which is more likely to happen, especially after you saw the 12 black shirts and they averaged like 29 years of age and game experience? What's more likely to happen in the non-con? The defense continues like status quo, or the offense is markedly improved?
Well, I think the gray beards and the black shirts will hold serve. I think they're going to show what people. I think that's almost a given, right?
That's good, but look at the numbers, though. It would be pretty. That's lofty.
Yeah, no question. And I do think that, that second, I think this first week is going to be a pretty good test with the up-tempo attack that UTEP has. And then obviously.
Yeah, can they tackle and get lined up? That's huge for me.
Absolutely. Because the UTEP's going to want to snap the ball like 20 seconds on the play clock, if not, quicker.
And he's very familiar with Tony White. So.
and their OC was an OC against Nebraska last year. He was the OC at Louisiana Tech. Yeah. So. This is not. I mean, people look at this UTEP game as a layup. Yeah, I mean, of course they're going to be heavily favored, but I don't think it's going to be all smooth sailing Saturday. I think there's going to be some moments where you're like, okay, all right, maybe this isn't going to be a walk in the park this afternoon because UTEP's coming to win. I know that. But getting back to your point, the Colorado game I think is going to be a true test for the defense. But I would say we're going to see some market improvement from the offense, and I think it just lends itself from the. And this is just from a quarterback perspective in terms of hitting the open guys, because we've seen the receivers on this team open. It's whether or not the quarterback can get the ball to the open receivers on time, right? and picking making the right decisions while you're back there getting having pressure put on you. And I think that's where we're going to see the most marked improvement in the non-con and just hitting the basic guys, because we've seen guys open. You've seen guys wide open.
You know what used to drive me crazy is last year I would hear these guys, get behind the mic or whatever. No offense to local media, but it's like, we can't get separation and this and that. I'm like, feel free to pop in all 22. Like, stop saying that. As depleted as the wide receiving core was, that was not the issue. That's why.
Yeah.
I had a guy.
I agree with you, DB.
I had a guy yesterday. He's just one of my little young buddies that I always talk to. He's like, man, I just don't get your affinity for Satterfield. And I haven't responded yet because he sent it late at night. But I was just like, when guys stop getting open and it becomes more about execution or less about execution, more about schematics, then we'll start to have that conversation. But up until now, like I'm just not ready to have that conversation where I'm upset with Sat. I'm not there yet.
Well, I go back to last season. You got to kind of almost rip last season out of the offensive playbook, because they had to tear up their plan like 3 weeks into the season with guys getting injured and hurt and whatever. And you're totally revamping what you wanted to do. You're installing, the option play, and all those other than that type of attack, where you didn't realize that you were going to have to lean on that so much. So that was last year was as much about just survive and advance and adapting week to week than it was about offensive schemes, because you had so many injuries thrown at you. And I think this is a year with not only the quarterback that you have back there, but also the weapons that you have, not only at wide receiver, but the tight end. And let's see what the running backs can do. And that's obviously one of the biggest question marks, is who's going to be the running back that they're going to lean on. But, I tend to think that the running back they're going to lean on is a guy that not only can hit the home run, which has been stated, but the guy that can pick up pass pro properly, and the guy that holds on to the football.
Yeah.
It's pretty basic 1-2 punch right there.
AK, real quick, got about 15 seconds left. Season prediction. What's the record?
I think they're going to go 8-4. They're going to go to the Duke's Mayo Bowl. So Matt Rule's going to go back home to Charlotte.
There we go.
Oh, I wouldn't mind the food there.
There's a lot of 8-4s in the air.
Better than the clubs in Tampa. Okay, AK. I'd rather have good food.
Depends on what you're in the mood for. Have you ever had the chicken wings at some of those places? You never know.
Wow.
AK, we will talk to you later, bud. We've got more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're brought to you by our friends at Union Omaha. Make sure you get to unionomaha.com to get tickets to their September 7th match against Greenville Triumph SC. 7 p.m. Warner Park. It is bobblehead giveaway night, presented by Nebraska State Soccer Association, and it's also Hometown Heroes Night presented by Woodman Life. Get to unionomaha.com to get tickets and find out all the information you need to get out to their next match September 7th. DB.
Ravi.
You like Jamal Banks?
I like Jamal Banks. I like his business-like approach. You know what I like? I'm going to tell you this. I'm glad you teed this one up for me, because even I can hit a 50-core softball hard.
Okay.
I think there's something to the way you practice. And too often, I see this a lot more in high school, and I saw it in some training sessions in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot stand how coaches don't demand that good players practice hard. I'm just going to tell you, I don't know. I'm not saying I know more than the next man. I'm saying anecdotally, when I look at if your good players in high school don't practice hard, it just doesn't bode well.
That's coming back to get you at some point,
man. And if coaches are honest, so they have to say have to say two things. They have to say, yeah, I kind of let that guy off the hook,
or practice doesn't matter that much,
right?
Those are the only two options. So
when I watch Banks, just watch his drill work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he goes to work with purpose. his drills. I think it's important to him to have no drops. I think it's important to him to have hands catches. I think it's important to him, when they say sink your hips and round the cone, like his attention to detail and how like his reps matter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no coincidence. Like when I see it, and too often we sometimes think like watch Fedoni practice.
Mm-hmm.
It's annoying. Like if you're the other guy,
yeah, if
right?
you're going against him, right?
Yeah,
it's because you're just like, hey, like you don't have to hit me that hard every play.
For all the perceived faults of LP, this guy
Practice
could
hard.
practice.
Yeah,
like. And at first, you're really immature, and it's like,
bro, relax.
Oh my God, why did you just run that out 55 yards?
Yeah, now I got to do that.
So you guys in practice.
Now I have to do that.
Right. But when you become comfortable, like that's just the culture.
Yeah,
it just brings out the best. Banks is a guy that sets the standard for how to go to work,
and it matters when it's your better players. Because of what I just said, right? If you're,
like people roll their eyes, right? They're like, "Duh," to what you just said.
No,
but I'm just telling you, it's not always like that,
and it's less common than you want to believe.
Yeah, Menor used to tell some incredible stories.
Yeah,
about leadership on that team when they had good teams,
mm-hmm.
right? He used to call Jake Delhomme. He used to call him Opie.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, man, you watch Opie practice. It's like he would watch Steve Smith, who was deranged,
mm-hmm.
just lay it on the line every single day. And I'm like, Steve Smith still doing that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's like, DB, it turned into these things. Like when you're some of the greatest practice players I've ever seen, or were the greatest player I've ever, Calvin Strong.
Yeah.
You watch that guy practice. Watch Quentin Warren practice.
Think about all of the great players. I mean, you can go from high school to all-time greats.
Yeah.
Think about all of them.
Aaron Donald, Reggie White was notorious.
Yeah. I mean, look at, one that you see all the videos or whatever from your guy, like James Harrison. That dude's nuts.
Oh, my man crush.
That dude's nuts.
Yeah.
He's crazy. He's a crazy person.
Do you realize his first start? Do you know how James Harrison first started?
He got cut like 10 times.
Do you know how he got his first start? So what other guy in that linebacking core do I really like that I said was certifiable? He coaches on their staff right now.
Yeah.
Joey Porter.
There it is. Yep.
So he first got on the squad because Clark Haggins had a quad.
Mm-hmm.
So their numbers were screwed up. But he got his first start against Cleveland because Joey Porter got in a pregame fight in Cleveland and got suspended. Couldn't play in the game. So Butler, their guy at the time, had to play Harrison. Two crazy guys fought before the game. Porter gets kicked out in pregame. And James Harrison has to start. Yeah, those guys, that's why I like Banks.
Who said it yesterday? I think it might have been Rule. Doesn't matter how you get there. So what do you do? What do you do once you're there?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how you get here. It matters about what you do once you're here.
Hey, Shane, that's on top of it. Well done.
I'm telling you.
That's a
he.
I mean, that James Harrison story is exactly what you're talking about.
Coach, he 100% believes that.
Yeah.
That's why there's no favorites. Satterfield wasn't blowing smoke when he said, hey, one day you could be on the ones, one day you could be on the threes if you're not careful.
Yeah. Or White was saying the same thing. Hey, your regular jersey's back in your locker. You don't act right. Once they get the black shirts,
yeah,
I mean, doesn't matter how you got here, whether you're the 5-star quarterback or you're the guy that was left for dead by the previous staff. Like, what are you going to do now?
Yeah. Remember,
that's the $1 million question.
For those of you paying attention at home, remember, Ramir Stewart wasn't on the original 105.
Yeah. And now he's, second string?
Yeah.
We got a Walker out here.
Hey, her shirt says the Lou. I'm tripping off of that.
Yeah? Big St. Louis guy?
She must be friends with Jordan.
Maybe.
St. Louis Jordan, as you like to call him.
St. Louis Jordan.
Yeah.
Let's get a couple calls in right here before we wrap up the hour. JB, what's going on, bud?
Hello, friends. How you guys doing?
What's up, buddy?
Hey, I just want to tell you guys this is my favorite week of the year. Favorite week.
Okay.
100%. Everything's on the table right now. Could go undefeated. We could fall on our face and lose the first game, but it's all on the table today.
I like that.
I'm excited. I'm excited this season because I think for once, hopefully, Nebraska has a quarterback that can consistently convert on 3rd and long. That's what they've been missing with Martinez, with Armstrong. Those guys couldn't convert on 3rd and long consistently with their arm.
You just want to feel like you have hope if it's 3rd and 7, right?
I would take 3rd and medium, to be fair. Like, I would take 3rd in anything that isn't a run.
Exactly. If on the first 3rd and 7 they run a quarterback draw, I'm ripping my TV off the wall, throwing it off the deck, and trying to forget I know what Nebraska football is.
Hey, they get in a 3-by-1 in motion, running back out. They run the ball. Will you just like leave?
I will leave. I am done. Last year I was almost done, and it's just I'm not a great football genius, but when they line up in 3rd and whatever, and I'm like, well, here's a quarterback draw, and it's a quarterback draw. I mean, there's a problem.
JB, I appreciate that.
That's our guy, JB. I get what he means.
Me too.
And that's the difference between.
But this is what makes this, like, everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks like we got a shot.
Well, that's the difference between having a guy at quarterback and just another dude, right? Like having a dude makes you you're like, oh, I can be at 3rd and 7. I feel okay, right? And just having a guy who's maybe we just do a QB draw and not make any mistakes here, right? Let's get to out of breath. Brian wants to talk about Dylan a little bit. Brian, what's going on, man?
What's going? I thought about trolling you if you answered the phone saying, "Hey, I'm not taking calls from Ravi Sports."
Wait, hey, listen, okay? You're $136 million happier today, aren't you, B? Wowzer, he got paid.
Yes, hey, that's well, he could have, I ain't gonna get into all that. I guess Gary don't care about saving money. He must really want to just pay people. Okay.
Hey,
I ain't mad about it.
Next Wednesday, call us again because Dak will have his deal in place too. He's going to announce it on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm used to it by now. At least he didn't do him like Emmitt Smith and send him somewhere like Arizona. All right, and make him go play for the Cardinals. That's better. But hey, I was listening when you were talking about the Porter and Harrison.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking how crazy Porter used to be. I was thinking about those.
Yeah, he's nuts.
When they would have those battles with those Warren Sapp Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they would beat them, and he would be talking mad junk.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd be talking mad junk. So I could see how that would go down. One person that won't shut up, and one person like, I hope you know I ain't playing right now.
They literally fought with Cleveland in the pregame. Literally fought. Yeah, Joey Porter was
those two right there.
Was not
those
right.
Two are horrible. He would not shut up. He'll talk and he'll talk.
Yep.
And he'll stand in your face and talk. So, but I was thinking about the question Ravi asked you about Dylan earlier, and I was like, from his position, that's what I want. I want a Magic Johnson at that position. I don't want no Michael Jordan. I don't want you to do it by yourself. That's what Baltimore has, Lamar Jackson. I want my Magic Johnson. Distribute the ball, get rid of it, and let them do what they need to do. That's all we need the quarterback to do is get the ball to the open people.
And it'll be better for your health too. Like
I want to see you laying on the ground.
Yeah.
No, we got Harburg, but I'd rather stay with the person that we got starting at quarterback and try to keep him as long as possible. Yeah. But that's what I was thinking. I'd rather have him say something like what he said, because to me that displays that he's more of a team first player and not caught up all in himself. And I don't want a quarterback just caught up all in himself and trying to get to the NFL, even though we feel he's going to go there. I don't want to be what's the word I'm looking for? A jerk about it.
Brian, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We are joined now by our friend from The Athletic, Mitch Sherman. Mitch, how are you this morning? There we go. Shane's going to produce the show at some point.
Shane Buttons over there.
There we go, Mitch. How you doing?
Asleep at the wheel over there. I'm good. How are you guys?
We just woke him up. I had to honk. How we doing all right, Mitch?
Yeah, I'm great. Good to see you.
So this is kind of a strange week for you, right? College football starting. The Royals are in the thick of it.
Oh, the Royals,
and high school football with East and the Dragons and all
Thursday and Friday night in town.
Preseason top 10. Like, all right.
Watching college volleyball last night.
How about that?
Took up my evening.
Okay, so let's start there. Mitch, because you brought up volleyball. I love volleyball. I was listening to Coach Reyes, his post game, because you know I'm a huge fan of Husker Sports Nightly, right? How about that start? I tried to convince myself that, you know, a team was hitting like minus 111. They're down 4 a couple of different times in that set. But the crazy coach in me says, you know what? This is the perfect start for them on the road. Post-documentary, everybody's kind of on edge, and they get a chance to show whether they can come out of the back end. Like, maybe Coach Cook would say differently, but as a guy that admires that program, I almost don't think I could have scripted that start and come through performance any better.
I think he loved it. He didn't love the way they were playing, but I was watching that first set, and as Kentucky went on that run, I was like, is Cook going to call a timeout? And I was looking, they were showing him. It's like, no, he's not going to call a timeout. He's just
you're like
let them
praying for a side out, and he won't take a timeout.
No, not taking a timeout. Like, I'm going to let you guys work through this. And I guarantee that if you asked him about it, that was his thought. Like, we're not going to let them have the easy way out and try to disrupt Kentucky's momentum. Like, if it costs us this first set, then fine. You know, we'll try to come back. But and that's what he's working to do. It's like the long-term goal with this team is for them to have to dig themselves out of trouble, because you saw that they couldn't do that against Texas the last time they were out there on the court. Now they have to come together. They've got the seniors now. They're not relying on freshmen like a year ago, and they found their way through that and won that first set and played their best in that first set when it mattered the most at the very end. Like, I was just talking on our podcast about how this is the perfect test for a team like Nebraska volleyball to go on the road and do this. So Nebraska football, to bring it back to football, has started the year away from home in these challenging situations the last 4 seasons. Since 2020, it's been conference games on the road. And like, it couldn't have come probably at a worse time for the program. Like, if there's been a program that needed to be at home to have a longer runway and have a game to start like Nebraska seems to have this year, I'm not slandering UTEP. It's a game at home against a mid-major program. This is not going to Ohio State or going overseas or playing on a Thursday night against a conference team on the road. Like, Nebraska volleyball can handle that, should handle that, did handle that. It knows how to win. Nebraska football should be playing against a Conference USA team at home to open the season.
Did you have to remind yourself that Krause is a senior already?
In some ways, I know you're a big Krause fan, and her story's amazing. The fact that they bring in Taylor Landfair and, you know, another class with freshmen, top 10 prospects nationally, and there she is coming
from versatility,
right. And then she got benched in the game and came back in and helped them win. You know, Omaha kid for sure, a great story. I don't know. I mean, I feel like she's missed so much time on the court that part of me is like, she's a senior already. But then, you know, she does like the little things. I think she helps make them a better team when she's out there, because you see her blocking, you see her, you know, doing all kind. You know, they subbed her out to for in the back row for. I think Choboy was playing for Krause,
and she got lost in the rotation. The way that they kind of managed that in the middle, I'm not going to blame it on the officials, but it kind of seemed like they should have caught it earlier, because then you have to go back.
Oh, it was a long delay.
You have to go back and like redo the substitutions in the line. I'm like,
that was an unnecessarily long delay there in the third set. I know Cook and Skinner both looked perturbed with that, and I know both of those guys, and I know they were.
Well, because you have to count backwards, right? You have to go back.
I don't even know how they do it. Yeah,
you have to like go back through the rotation.
Mitch, talking about kind of the adversity they faced a little bit early. Obviously, they dropped the second set. Is there any part of you that thinks you kind of wish they had gone through something like that earlier last year where, I don't think they dropped a set until they played Creighton last year, which was several matches into the season. They didn't play a ranked team until Creighton. Like, is there any part of you that wishes they had hit some of that adversity earlier in the year, especially with a young team that probably needed to learn how to get through it?
Sure. I don't think it hurt them. I mean, they were 27-0 at one point. So I don't think that necessarily is the reason that Nebraska failed to win the national championship, because they didn't face adversity early in the season. They navigated through it. And if there's a year where you'd like to see it, well, I mean, they faced adversity in having to go to Stanford. It's just that they got the sweep on the road early last season. Playing in front of 92,000 people wasn't an easy thing to do. It's different than losing sets and having to come back and win, but it worked out fine for them. I mean, they lost in the final because Texas was way better on that day. So they got their challenges. They were challenged by Wisconsin, pushed absolutely to the max by Penn State on the road, had the loss. I think it was important for them to have a loss last season before they got to the Final Four, and they got that finally against Wisconsin on the road. But the way it went early, not losing, some teams that might have been something where you would say, I wish you would have dropped a set here or there, but I don't think it ended up being a factor.
It's interesting, too. You bring up Penn State. I was telling Jacob Padilla yesterday, once upon a time, remember in the mid-'90s, Penn State was – I would have considered that Nebraska's rival, right? I mean, that was the kind of the back and forth. And it's just interesting how volleyball, the landscape has just changed so dramatically regionally. And now we've got kind of this, you look at Kentucky, you look at Louisville, you look at regionally what's happening. Pittsburgh. It's incredible how there's such range in this sport on a national level.
I mean, the state of Kentucky was a great showcase for the state of Kentucky last night, and a great way to start off the season, since the Final Four is going back to that arena in December. It's like there's the similarities between the state of Nebraska with Nebraska and Creighton, and then the state of Kentucky with Kentucky and Louisville is interesting and striking, and notable also that the head coaches of those two programs, of course, have Nebraska connections, deep Nebraska connections in the case of Danny Busboom. So Danny Busboom Kelly got the win against Wisconsin late last night.
Convincingly too. It was I definitely caught my eye. She's built them from basically, I won't say nothing, but one of those low infinite numbers.
So she took Cook to Churchill Downs yesterday, is what I think I heard somewhere on the broadcast.
Did he bring his new horse?
Well, I mean, he certainly was looking at horses. That he wanted to go out there.
They went down a day early. They were there a day early just because of the media obligation.
He was going to take advantage of that opportunity. I bet that was the highlight of his trip.
Was he picking out a new contract extension while he was down there, or what?
Yeah. Right. Give me another horse. He needs a racing horse to go with his roping horse.
Isn't it weird how he seems like we maybe think he may be there longer than we would have thought like a year or two ago?
I mean, they played him for the last seven.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems like he's like, reinvigorate or something where.
Oh, he's reinvented himself. Yeah. I wrote about this last week. Sat down last Saturday in his office with him. It was 2 Saturdays ago. I don't know,
Isn't he amazing as a person?
You don't see a lot of 68-year-olds or 48-year-olds for that matter who have his energy and just his thoughtfulness. His office is a great place to visit. The life that he's living right now is pretty incredible for anyone of any age, and it's like all on display there in his office. I mean, it's like, over here, let me show you the spurs that they made for me, personalized with his name on them. And he's got the hat. I wrote about his hat, the $900 hat that they gave him out in Hyannis this year. You sometimes when I first heard about this stuff with him and the cowboy, I was like, it's just like, a late midlife crisis, or is he doing this to like look cool to recruits? And it's like, no, he's really, really, really fascinated by all of this.
No.
That's funny. We're talking to Mitch Sherman of The Athletic. Switching gears to football here, Mitch. Obviously, we've got a quarterback that's been announced as the starter since we talked to you last. We've gotten a depth chart since we've talked to you last. We've gotten black shirts since we've talked to you last. And I think we've gotten single digits since we talked to you last. Out of all the late off-season news, has anything really stuck out to you? I know some of them seemed like givens, like Dylan Raiola and all that, but has anything from sort of all these announcements about personnel and players, what stuck out to you the most?
Jamal Banks sticks out to me a lot. The only offensive guy in that single-digit category. And then the conversation that we had with Matt Rule this week, where he went on about Jamal Banks and how important he's been as an addition to this team, not just coming in January and taking the standard to another level when they got out on the field and mat drills and winter conditioning, but how he's continued to do that and raise the bar for the expectations and the things that he does off the field. I think he's set himself up, Banks has, to be one of the better stories on this team. I mean, we'll see what kind of a season he has. I think those things have to come together in order for it to be like the complete picture. Like we're talking in November about him in the way that we did, Samori Toure, who had a great season at Nebraska when he came and was one and done. I mean, Banks can go even above that, I think, because of if it's a winning season and, what he can do for Dylan Raiola. He can be the quarterback's best friend. I mean, he talked yesterday about coming back for the ball on routes when the offensive play gets off script. And I mean, I just get the sense that he's going to completely sell out for this team, because that's what he's done since he set foot on campus every day in January.
Mitch, when you're talking about, and I asked this to Andy Kendeigh, and I get well, let me just ask the question. 12 black shirts handed out. I thought I guessed 14 in my head. I'm cool with 12. It's not my baby. Like, I'm not a black shirt, so I leave it to those guys. So you got the 12 black shirts, super mature group. You look at the offense, all the positivity about the wide receiving core and quarterback play, and they were so poor on offense last year. I say all that to say, in this non-con, or maybe even just Saturday. Now, I won't just use Saturday because I need more of a body of work. So let's say in the non-con, Mitch Sherman will be writing about which one first. The black shirts haven't missed a beat. They picked up where they left off after a remarkable year a year ago, or the market improvement of the offense from this time a year ago.
Well, if both of those things happen, I'll be writing more about the offense, because that's the compelling story out of the gate. That's the one I think where everyone's eyes are at. So I guess the question becomes, is the offense going to show that early? I think the defense is going to carry this team at the beginning, and then the offense is going to come along.
Can you imagine if the defense is top-notch against Colorado at home?
I think it could happen. I mean, Colorado.
If you're right, I think it's got to be a tougher story to write, though, doesn't it? Colorado is explosive. We're scared. All their wide receivers. It's Shador.
Yeah, I think the way it's going to play out
is last year.
I think the way it's going to play out is that the defense is going to be the bigger story. Well, it's not going to be the bigger story in the sense that like more people might be talking about the offense, but I think the defense will be the reason that Nebraska wins games early this year, if it in fact does get off to the kind of start that we think it could happen. Like you go 4-0 in the first 4 at home. I think that's going to be more about the defense and then the offense not losing games than it is about the offense winning games. And then that can come. That can come later in the year. We heard Rule say adamantly on Monday that they're not going to treat Dylan Raiola with kid gloves and have him go out there and play. They're going to coach him like he's a freshman. That might lead to it's better in the long run, but it might lead to things looking a little bit disjointed at times.
And I loved how he followed it up too, Mitch, when he said, and you know what? We're not going to panic. We're going to stay right here with what we do. This is how we're going to play. We know it may look, or it could potentially look blank early, but we're riding this thing. I don't know, man. I'm encouraged by that just because I think it'd be nice to have somebody just stay the course.
Right. And no, you don't need the added drama, and nobody's talking about, making a change. And look, I mean, it's going to get dramatic if they turn it over 5 times in one of these first 2 games. That's inevitable. I just don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's who he is. I don't think that's what the way that they're going to coach him. And I just don't see that. I think they're going to make a jump this year. Can they get to +7 where Rule wants to be? That would be like a 24 net gain in turnovers from last year. That's a high bar. I don't know. I would like to see them like first, like break even. Yeah, break even. And then if you get there, then, great. I mean, breaking even is not like for just an average team that is good, like a good team, a normal good team. Like breaking even, you want to be better than that. You want to be in that +7 range. But look, Nebraska's had all kinds of trouble. It's like systemic in the program still until it's not. So, and it's a true freshman. So some of those things are going to happen. But anyway, the defense to me, I think is going to be a big story early on. So will the offense, but I think the defense will be the reason that Nebraska's having success if it in fact goes that way.
Part of the reason I asked the question is if it's the offense, it would be a pleasant welcome surprise.
Mm-hmm.
If it's the defense, it would be pretty impressive. Right.
I think the defense.
So it's a good thing, but for different reasons. Because I think we look at those defensive statistics from last year, and it's like sometimes we have a tendency to say either, well, yeah, but, or we just pencil it in as an automatic. It can't be both of those things, right? Because we get into what they did against, the top 70 offenses versus the bottom third in the country, and it's like, well, I don't know, like. It's year 2. They have tape. So it seems like an easy answer on the surface, but if that defense is better in some areas statistically a year ago, that would be pretty impressive to me.
I don't know that it will. I think, like you look at like 4.62 yards per game. That's what Nebraska allowed in 2023. I think the number very easily could be above that this year, but the defense will be better. But
they could take it away more, get off third down.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's fine. Like the things that they need to do are not just all measured in yardage, in statistics. Of course, points is a pretty big one, but creating turnovers, eliminating big plays, getting sacks, getting off the field on third down, like you said, red zone efficiency, all of that stuff. I think they would take before they would say, all right, we have to be better than we were just in terms of yards allowed per play, because the schedule is different this year, and you're adding some offenses that Nebraska didn't face, the types of offenses Nebraska didn't face a year ago.
I got one, Mitch. How about if Nebraska's defense just gets a stop at the end of the game when a team is putting themselves in position to get a win?
Sure.
Like just flip a couple of those. Because how many times did we hear Coach Rule say last year, hey, listen, you guys can be mad at the offense or this and that, but remember, like their offense had the ball last, right? Not ours. So
Maryland, Iowa,
like
Wisconsin. Yeah.
Right?
Minnesota.
The key third down where they couldn't get a quarterback down. Minnesota with the backbreaker. Wisconsin with, the late scramble. Like those things were real.
Yeah, they're going to be measured by that more so than a number, than an average.
Iowa.
But the good thing is, I think that this team will be better at that stuff.
Nice.
Mitch, got just a couple minutes left here with you. Let's get a season prediction out of you and kind of why you think it's going to go that way?
Yeah, I'm glad I gave this some thought. I have actually given it some thought. I may have sounded there like I was being sarcastic, but I have actually given it some thought this week. In past years, I've gotten to this point and just been like, don't ask me. I can't tell you until I see them play the first game. I don't feel that way this year. I feel like I can actually be confident and not that I'm going to be right, not confident that I'm going to be right, but I feel some conviction in saying that I think Nebraska's going 8-4 this year. That's the number I've got right now. I think they're going to go 3-0 in the non-conference, and so that's going to mean some ups and downs for sure in the Big Ten, and it may not all be where people expect it to be. It may not all come in late October and November. Like I don't necessarily believe that they're going to go unscathed until Ohio State. I think they're going to lose one of those games, and that's going to be a defining point for this team is how they respond when they lose a game they're not supposed to win. If that happens. So 8-4 is where I've got them, and I think that would be met with a lot of
journey,
happiness.
Open arms.
Yeah.
That's Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Mitch, we appreciate your time as always and enjoy the finally starting of college football.
Where are you going Thursday, Friday, Mitch?
Thursday night, I'm going to be home probably watching college football. I might sneak out and go to the Gretna Elkhorn game. And Friday night, I got to watch my Gretna East Griffins. Go Coach Haberman. Let's get it done. Start 1-0.
I think Gretna Elkhorn's on TV, so you might just be able to get that set up.
Put that on alongside Colorado, North Dakota State. All right.
Got you covered.
Ravi and I argued. I don't care if Colorado comes in undefeated or not. I'm not cheering for them ever at any point. I don't need drama in 2 weeks. Go Bison.
Yeah, Cole Payton, man. Let's do it.
Yes. And Marty Brown, Sharmar Brown. Let's go.
Mitch, we appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mitch.
I wasn't saying I was
yes, you were.
rooting
yes,
for Colorado.
Yes, you were, Ravi.
No, I wasn't.
Yes,
I wouldn't
you were.
ever do that.
Yes, yeah. Oh, I want them 1-0. I don't know if we can handle or how they'll match. No, man.
I don't know how they'll react if they lose to North Dakota State. That doesn't mean in the moment I'm going to be rooting for Colorado.
Whatever. Go Bison. You come into Lincoln on 1. That'd be awesome.
Clown show over here.
Wow.
We've got more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. It's time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. Warhorse Sportsbook, no bets, no glory. It's the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. Keep your money on the correct side of the river with the sportsbooks in Lincoln or Omaha, and you can place bets on nearly every major sporting events, parlays, straight bets, props, in-game, whatever you can think of. They're likely going to be able to accommodate you at Warhorse Sportsbook.
Yeah, you're going to go and
we're going to
do all this whole Buffalo thing.
No, we're going to have this fight on air.
Your bets on Buffalo.
We're going to have.
We're not having a fight on air.
No, we're going to have this fight on air because you take shots after we get off the air, and you're like, oh, Ravi, you're for Buffaloes. You're putting in the chat and everything.
Because you are.
No, I'm doing the exact same thing that you're doing, which I'm going to explain here in a second.
Oh,
and I don't know if we can bet on this or not, but we'll figure it out.
I'm going to bet on the fact you can't spin this.
Shane asked a question. He goes, if it directly benefited Nebraska, would you root for Colorado? Say, hey, if Colorado beats X team in the last game of the season, Nebraska makes the playoff. It's rarely that linear, but let's say it is. And you said, yes, you would root for Colorado in that scenario, as would I, because it directly impacts and benefits Nebraska, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That's a yes for the people that didn't hear that just groan that DB made, because I'm making a point here.
No, that's not. You haven't said anything.
I'm getting there, and you know where it's going, so I'm going to win. You asked, and then earlier, I don't remember if he asked or you asked.
I asked you off air. I'll ask you
for NDSU or Colorado.
I said, hey, are you rooting for NDSU or Colorado?
And I said, I'm not sure if I want Colorado coming into Lincoln as 1-0 or 0-1. And whichever way I thought benefited Nebraska is what I would root for.
That's not what you said, though. You said, well, I don't know how Colorado would respond if they're 0-1 and how Nebraska would take it. Like, That doesn't have it.
That's the exact same thing we're talking about.
No, it's not.
If I don't know how Colorado's going to respond,
so are you concerned? You talk about pee tucking. Are you concerned that Colorado may be mad or they're mad because they got beat by the Bison, and Nebraska may oh shoot, they got beat by NDSU. Let's let our guard down.
No, it has nothing to do with Nebraska letting their guard down. It has everything to do with some teams, and I'm not saying Colorado's terribly disciplined in this stretch, so I'm not betting on that necessarily. But
yes, you are, Mr. Warhorse.
Some teams coming off of a loss tend to shore things up and fix it a little bit, and they're better the next week.
Because you love Dion, and he's like,
I don't love Dion. That's why I said I don't know how they'll react.
He's like Lombardi, huh? Now, Ravi.
That's why I said I don't know how they'll react. Because I don't. Because I think it's just as plausible that they get their teeth kicked in by North Dakota State, and then they tail tuck. And they're a shell themselves like they were after they lost their first game last season. But I don't know which, because Dion is a wild card and is totally unpredictable. I have no idea how that team's going to react to anything.
What was the original question?
NDSU versus Colorado. Who am I rooting for?
Yes.
And it will depend on how I feel about how they're going to react. In the moment, I want NDSU to beat Colorado. Yes. But I don't know if NDSU beating Colorado is good for Nebraska or bad for Nebraska. So at the end of the day, that's what my rooting interest will be.
So you feel as though they're uniquely intertwined? Are they connected? Is this like some symbiotic relationship, or are you worrying about?
Yeah, it's context. Things that happen before and after impact the thing that happens in the middle. So you've got coaches, and I'm obviously not a big Dion fan, but like Pat Shermer spent a long time around football. Maybe if there's something going on, he's able to shore some things up. Whereas if you win, sometimes you get a false sense of security. I don't know which one it's going to be, so I don't know which one of my rooting's in.
So a coach wouldn't get a false sense of security if they lost, but he would be the same quality coach that would be operating under fool's gold with a win?
Possibly. I don't know.
Doesn't seem right, does it?
I mean, we've seen that happen with good coaches before. You can get lulled into a false sense of security.
No, but you'd be a good enough coach to want to fix corrections, but not a good enough coach to not have a false sense of security?
I think it's less about the coach and more about the players. So the players are easier.
So you really didn't mean to say Shermer. You just meant in general.
Yes.
Okay.
Players are more likely to be lulled into a false sense of security. The coach might see what's wrong on tape in a win and go out and be like, hey, let's do X, Y, and Z. And the players are like, hey, coach, we won. We scored all these points, whatever. We're good.
I can't believe how you just did that. You talk about pommel horse and uneven bars. I'm privateless right now trying to handle these uneven bars because there's no way that mental gymnastics makes sense. It's
fandom. None of it really makes sense.
Oh, is this you being a fan?
Yes.
Well, that sucks.
It's me. What do I think is best for Nebraska for them to win against Colorado?
Listen, man.
So that's fandom right there.
Go NDSU.
In the moment, I'm going to want NDSU to win.
Listen, beat their brains out. I don't care if Colorado's all of a sudden steaming Willie Beeman. They're mad. They go spend 80 hours. They don't have 80 hours. They go spend 12 hours.
A stickler for following rules. So I'm sure
12 hours in the film room, and they come into Lincoln with Ralphie, snorts ablazing. Don't care.
What's Ralphie snorting?
I don't know. Oxygen, I hope.
What does bolstered mean?
Well, what does bolstered mean?
It's Buffalo, coach. You're the Buffaloes, not the bolsters.
It's not rocket science.
There are teams that play better off of a loss than they do coming off of a win.
I think you're incredible.
That's a real thing we talk about all the time. Handling success versus handling failure. Some teams handle success well. Some teams handle failure well.
What I'd be willing to bet in this Warhorse segment?
What?
Is that if I put out a poll, I'm not even going to ask if you're crazy. I just would put out the simple scenario. Hey, who are we cheering for? Colorado or NDSU? And nobody will write in the comments, well, it depends on if it benefits Nebraska. Nobody's going to think like that.
I smell bad.
I think a lot of people are thinking like that.
Who is that shit?
I think a lot of people think like that.
I don't.
I think so.
Are you nuts?
I think a lot of people think like that. I think a lot of people are looking at Colorado tomorrow.
Guess what?
I've talked to people.
That's not even good. Hey, stop talking to those people.
I've talked to lots of people.
You don't talk to people that think that way.
Why not?
It's not healthy.
You tell me all the time, talk to people who think differently than me. You're like, hey,
Well, no, see,
open yourself up to more perspectives, Ravi. Open yourself up to more perspectives. You don't have to like somebody to get something good out of them. That's true.
No.
You tell me that all the time.
That kind of sounds like a circle tug because people are thinking like you, that group think, but it's like you're too worried about Nebraska's psyche going. I'm
not worried about Nebraska's psyche. I'm talking about Colorado. I think Nebraska.
Who thinks like that? Like,
because I feel good about Nebraska's psyche, so I'm not even thinking about them.
So come in with an L. Like, if Nebraska's going to be good anyway.
You forget there's another team involved, right? Colorado's the other part of that equation.
Oh,
so if I like Nebraska's psyche, the only psyche that I'm worried about then is Colorado's.
I don't know if we can be friends.
I blame Colorado for this conversation.
I blame your ridiculous scenario off air. That's what
exactly right.
No, I know, Seth. I know.
He's never said that to you.
I know.
You're exactly right.
That much is true. That much is. Which, by the way, I got to get back to my man Preston.
What does Preston want?
So P said, I don't get your love affair with Satterfield. If they are really planning to play HH often with Dylan, then we deserve everything we have. I don't understand that. But he hit me with the ... So maybe I'm supposed to respond and then he's going to tell me what he really means. But are you vibing with that?
That we deserve everything?
So I think he doesn't. I think
it's a bad idea.
Yeah, I think that's what he's saying to me. I still can't believe you can't just pick who to cheer for.
In the moment, I'm going to be rooting for NDSU because I don't like Colorado and I hate Coach Prime.
It's a sad.
Oh, I better not say that out loud. I might not be able to ask questions after the post-game presser if I.
Oh, here we go.
Oof. I better be careful.
I know you're going to blame this on the ID
I don't want to get the Sean Keeler
Criminal
treatment.
Minds, but I kind of want to put this highlighter through your right eye.
No, I think you had serial killer tendencies before you started watching the shows. I think you just leaned into them because of the serial killer tendencies.
Who thinks like that?
I do. I think I overthink things. Have you met me? Hi, Ravi here. I overthink things.
You wait.
Hi, it's me. Just overthinking things over here.
Saying, get your guy.
That's what I do.
You're going to Warhorse with that take?
I'm probably not going to bet on it. No. I'll bet on the fact that other people think like that.
Who? Name names.
I'm not going to name names. What do you want me to do here? People think like this. I've had the conversations.
Name names.
You know what I'm going to bet on?
If I get a couple of hate texts and it's like Jacob or somebody, I know who those people are.
Yeah, smart people who actually think about things and aren't just like, I'm not even talking about Nebraska psyche. I'll bet on their psyche being just fine. I don't know what Colorado's psyche is going to be.
Dude, I hope they get their teeth kicked in.
I also bet on the fact that Coach Prime won't take any questions for me in a couple weeks. That's TV.
You're the first one to raise your hand.
Ravi Lulla. Hey, why are you such a Dean Blandino? That's a
wow. It's good.
Wrapping up the show here on a Wednesday. Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage, and we are joined now by Nate Davis. He covers the NFL for USA Today. Nate, how are you this morning?
Hanging in there. How are you?
Good, Nate. I appreciate your expertise. We are going to try not to dominate this with quarterback talk because I feel like every time we talk to our national guys about NFL, quarterbacks steal the show. And partly it's because I'm traumatized as a Steelers fan. But I want to start with wide receiver contracts. After CD Lamb got paid and you saw the deal and you saw the timing, who's the biggest winner and who's the biggest loser after you saw that deal that CD Lamb inked yesterday?
As it pertains to the Cowboys or generally?
In general, you could go other wide receivers. You could go Dak Prescott. You could do any. Who's the biggest winner and who's the biggest loser?
I mean, I think CD Lamb is clearly the biggest winner. I think his signing bonus was a record for a wide receiver and got the $100 million guaranteed. I think it's fair that his salary or contract came in just under Justin Jefferson's. And we'll see this may or may not help negotiations with Jamar Chase in Cincinnati, but I feel like he's a little bit of a different bucket anyway, since he's got 2 years left on his deal, where CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson and Brandon Ayuk are all entering, their rookie option years. So we'll see how that goes. But I still kind of think the Cowboys are the loser. I mean, they're always dragging their feet on these things. They end up doing a shorter deal with CeeDee for 4 years, which means he'll get back to the table quicker, which is what Dak Prescott did. And now we kind of see the pickle they're in with Dak Prescott. And the good thing about not only doing deals early is you can get ahead of the market to some degree, but you also create more roster flexibility for yourself. And the Cowboys essentially had none this year, and now they're playing catch up again. I don't think the roster is as good as it was last year after all the, kind of mid-tier starters they lost in free agency. And I think that they're in real jeopardy of not being a playoff team this year.
Nate,
wouldn't that be something?
You brought up Brandon Ayuk.
Wow.
Does this change, in your mind, the scenario between Ayuk and the 49ers at all? It seemed like maybe there was some momentum towards the deal last week, but looks like we're still in a holding pattern. Does CeeDee's deal mess that up at all?
I don't think so. My understanding is that Brandon Ayuk isn't necessarily trying to reset the receiver market. And I don't think you can make a – I mean, it's pretty tough to make a case anyway on Brandon Ayuk's side that you're the same level of player that CeeDee Lamb is, particularly given, the offense that Brandon Ayuk plays in and all the weapons around him. But, I mean, these deals – I mean, the 49ers are another team that often kind of, it gets their deals done to some degree at the last minute. I mean, not always with them, but I mean, I think Nick Bosa's deal got done right before the start of the season last year. Deebo Samuel's got done in training camp a couple of years ago. So there's urgency when there's urgency. I think we're reaching that point, particularly, if you want Brandon Ayuk to be ready to play week one. But I think the fact that the Niners haven't pulled the trigger on a trade yet, and hey, I mean, I've kind of said from the beginning, I mean, there's really no incentive for the 49ers to trade him. I mean, they've got the leverage contractually. I don't know that any team is in more of a win now mode than they should be, given how close they've been to a Super Bowl in recent years, and given the fact that they're going to have to remove some strong pieces of this team most likely next year, because they're going to have to pay Brock Purdy next year. So I mean, this is your last year really to, I think, have this whole band of really talented guys together when you've got the quarterback on the NFL version of minimum wage. So I think at some point they'll get it done with Ayuk, and we'll move forward, and then they'll probably make their kind of their version of the last dance, at least with this core group.
Yeah, that's funny because I think people forget with where Purdy was drafted, there is no other option. Like 4 is 4. Like it's coming up quicker than I think people think. But Nate, I'll stay with quarterbacks, but generally speaking, team oriented. When you look at the Chargers and Harbaugh's influence, and even the division that they play in, a lot of talk about their wide receiving core. When you look at Herbert and you put him in whatever tier you do you like that combination with Harbaugh, given what he has to play with? Do you look at him as a guy that can elevate those around him with a competent head coach?
Justin Herbert?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of said a year ago, probably on the short list of guys I would pay to go watch play a football game. I mean, that's a really fun quarterback to watch. I think he's really intentional.
Shane, we lose him?
I'm sorry?
Oh, go ahead,
out
Nate.
there for a
cut
second.
out for a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think he's a really intentional guy that says less and does more behind the scenes. I mean, he's had to play with several offensive coordinators already, so I think he's really going to benefit with some kind of, Jim Harbaugh has a reputation for getting the most out of his quarterbacks. The 49ers had a 7-win improvement, when he joined them in 2011. He really emerged as kind of a frontline starter. So I think pieces are in place with the Chargers. And you guys mentioned the division. I mean, that's going to be hurdle as the Chiefs have finished in first place every year since 2016. I want to, and certainly the Chargers have some pieces to add, future years.
We're talking with Nate Davis, NFL columnist for USA Today. Nate, is there a team, you mentioned the win improvements with Jim Harbaugh in past stops. Obviously, the Chargers might be a popular pick for this, but is there a team that you expect to improve the most from last year's finish into this year?
Improve the most. I mean, the Chargers are probably going to be there. I mean, they only won 5 games last year. I think I've gotten them winning 9 this year. I guess in terms of sheer probably win improvement, you look at a team like the Jets just because of the Aaron Rodgers factor. Obviously, if you're maybe looking at surprise teams, I think one that people are sleeping on is the Colts. I think that they could be really good this year, having not had Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor. I think played 4 snaps together last year. And I also keep an eye on Washington.
That's the one.
Nationally, are real high for them. I think the culture has been nicely reset there. Positive vibes when I went out there last week, and I think I don't necessarily know that they'll be a playoff team, but I think this could be another Washington team that wins 7 or 8 games like we've seen the last couple of years. But I think the difference with this one is that the arrow is definitely heading in the right direction, and like it could be 8 or 9 wins on the way to 10 or 11 or 12 wins a year from now.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on the Commanders, especially as the first candidate, and especially you said something earlier that caught my attention. If, in fact, your kind of gut tells you that Dallas isn't a playoff team, maybe it's not Washington that gets in, but they could win enough for a few hiccups. Who's your fave in the NFC East, given all what's gone on in these off seasons?
I think the Eagles are the favorite in the East. I mean, they've obviously, their issue is a talent. They've just kind of got to get things sorted out there in the locker room between players and coach and coaching staff, and certainly having 2 new offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator and experienced guys, which they didn't have in those positions last year. I mean, I don't think there's any question the Eagles are the most talented team in that division. And for all the kind of negativity justifiably attached to last year's team, I mean, they still won, I think, 11 games. I think they started out 10-1. So, it ended terribly, but I mean, they won a lot of games a year ago despite all the drama that was going on there. And history says we haven't had a repeat winner in that division since 2004. So it's probably not going to be the Cowboys, but I think everything points toward the Eagles winning the East this year.
Seeing some money here lately come in on Jordan Love as a viable MVP candidate. Whose 2024 trajectory would you take right now? The Lions or the Packers?
Well, I think they're both good trajectories, but I take the Packers just because I think they've got more room to improve than the Lions. I don't want to say the Lions are maxed out, but they won 11, 12 games last year. I mean, obviously, first time they've won the NFC North, and they're still a totally legit team, certainly in that Super Bowl mix. But to me, Green Bay, year 2 with Jordan Love, you've added Josh Jacobs. You've added Darnell Savage, but the thing I'm really watching with them is the defense. I think they've got 7 first-rounders in the defense, but it's been a situation where the whole has been less than some of the parts. So I mean, they're changing the scheme. They brought in Jeff Afley to run that defense, and I think if that defense can get up to kind of top 10 level, to me, the Packers are a legit Super Bowl contender.
Nate, last thing here from me. Is there a team that you look at that people are high on that you think might actually be a regression candidate from last year?
Well, we talked about the Cowboys. Obviously, they're one. I think probably the one maybe where I'm more an outlier is Houston. I think I think sometimes when you bring in a lot of guys in free agency and whatnot, which they have, I think sometimes it takes a while for that chemistry to emerge. You're talking about a team that's not going to surprise anyone this year, and they're going to have that first place schedule. I think the real thing that gets lost there is that the Texans, the Jaguars, the Colts all have the opportunity to win the AFC South on the last day of the season last year. Turned out it was the Texans, but those other 2 teams finished a game back. I mentioned the Colts and not having Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor. The Jaguars were really beat up last year. Trevor Lawrence in particular. I think those teams are kind of being discounted, but I think that they're right there with the Texans. And I think schedule-wise and maybe just being healthy, I think that there's certainly a good chance that they kind of
overtake them again.
That's Nate Davis from USA Today. Nate, we appreciate the time, and hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Appreciate it, Nate.
All right. Thanks.
That's Nate Davis from USA Today. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. We'll be back tomorrow with more Hurrdat Sports Radio.